Marvels of the Heart by Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Translation by Muhammad al-Amrani. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. All praise belongs to God, before whose majesty hearts and minds stand bewildered, unable to fathom his grandeur, and whose initial glimmers of light dazzle the eyes and gazes. He is the knower of the hidden secrets of the innermost beings, the one aware of the concealed recesses of consciences, independent in the governance of his dominion from any counsellor or aid. He is the turner of hearts, the forgiver of sins, the concealer of flaws, and the reliever of distress. Blessings and peace be upon the Master of the Messengers, the unifier of the community of faith, the severer of the roots of disbelief, and upon his pure and virtuous family, abundantly and forever. Now to proceed. The nobility and excellence of man, by which he surpasses all other species of creation, lie in his readiness to know God the Exalted. This knowledge is, in this worldly life, his beauty, perfection, and pride, and in the hereafter, his provision and treasure. Yet this readiness for divine knowledge resides not in any limb of his body, but in his heart. The heart is that which knows God, draws near to him, works for him, strives toward him, and unveils what is with God and in his presence. The limbs are but followers, servants and instruments employed by the heart, as a master employs a slave, a shepherd guides his flock, or a craftsman wields his tool. Thus the heart is what is accepted before God when it is purified of all but him, and it is veiled from God when it becomes engrossed in other than him. It is the one held accountable, addressed, reproached, and it is the one that finds happiness in proximity to God, flourishing when purified, and failing and becoming wretched when defiled and corrupted. It is the true, obedient servant to God, the Exalted, while the acts of worship that manifest through the limbs are but the rays of its light. It is also the rebel and transgressor against God, while the sins that spread to the limbs are merely its effects. Through its darkness or illumination, the virtues and vices of the outward self become apparent, for every vessel overflows with what it contains. When a person truly knows their heart, they know themselves, and when they know themselves, they know their sustainer. Conversely, when a person is ignorant of their heart, they are ignorant of themselves, and when ignorant of themselves, they are ignorant of their sustainer. Whoever is ignorant of their heart is even more ignorant of all else, for most of creation remains unaware of their hearts and selves, a veil having been placed between them and their true nature. Indeed, God intervenes between a person and their heart, preventing them from beholding it, observing it, or knowing its attributes and the manner in which it fluctuates between the two fingers of the Most Merciful, how it sometimes plummets to the lowest of lows, descending to the realm of devils, and at other times ascends to the highest of heights, rising to the domain of the closest angels. Whoever fails to know their heart, to watch over it, to guard it, and to await the treasures of the unseen realm that may manifest within and upon it, is among those about whom God the Exalted has said, "They forgot God, so he caused them to forget themselves." Such are the defiantly disobedient. Quran 59:19. Thus, knowing the heart and the reality of its attributes is the root of faith and the foundation of the path of the wayfarers. Having completed the first part of this book, which addresses the acts of worship and habits manifested through the limbs, namely the outward knowledge, and having promised to elaborate in the second part on the attributes of the heart, both destructive and salvific, which pertain to the inward knowledge, it becomes necessary to precede this with two books, one on the exposition of the wondrous attributes and morals of the heart, and another on the method of disciplining the heart and refining its character. Thereafter, we shall delve into the detailed discussion of the destructive and salvific traits. Let us now present, in the exposition of the wonders of the heart, through the method of striking similitudes, that which may bring understanding closer to the minds, for to speak explicitly of its marvels and secrets, which belong to the realm of the unseen, is beyond the grasp of most intellects. Clarification of the meanings of the self, spirit, heart, and intellect, and what is intended by these names. Know that these four terms are employed in these chapters, yet rare is the scholar who fully encompasses these names, their divergent meanings, and their precise definitions. Much of the confusion arises from ignorance of the meanings of these terms and their shared application to different concepts. We shall now elucidate the meanings of these terms as they relate to our purpose. The first term is heart, qalb, which is used in two senses. The first refers to the pinecone-shaped flesh situated on the left side of the chest, a specific piece of flesh with a cavity within it containing black blood that serves as the source and mine of the spirit. We do not intend here to describe its form or nature, as that pertains to the objectives of physicians and not to religious purposes. This heart exists in animals and even in the dead. When we use the term heart in this book, we do not mean this physical entity, for it is merely a piece of flesh devoid of value, belonging to the realm of the visible and tangible, perceived by animals through the sense of sight, let alone by humans. The second meaning refers to a subtle, divine, spiritual essence that is connected to this physical heart. This essence is the true reality of the human being, the perceiver, the knower, the one addressed, punished, reproached, and held accountable. Its connection to the physical heart has perplexed the minds of most of creation, for its attachment resembles the relation of attributes to substances, qualities to the qualified, a user to a tool, or an occupant to a place. We refrain from elaborating on this for two reasons. Firstly, it pertains to the sciences of unveiling, whereas the aim of this book is the sciences of practical dealings. Secondly, its full explanation would require disclosing the secret of the Spirit, a matter on which the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, did not speak, and thus it is not for others to delve into. Our intent when using the term heart in this book is this subtle essence, and our purpose is to describe its attributes and states, not its intrinsic reality. The science of practical dealings requires knowledge of its attributes and conditions, not of its essential nature. The second term is spirit, ruh, which in the context of our purpose also carries two meanings. The first refers to a subtle body originating from the cavity of the physical heart, spreading through the pulsating veins to all parts of the body. Its flow within the body, and the emanation of the lights of life, sensation, sight, hearing and smell to the limbs, resembles the diffusion of light from a lamp circulated within the corners of a house, illuminating every part it reaches. Life is akin to the light that falls upon the walls, and the spirit is like the lamp itself, while the movement of the spirit within the inward self mirrors the motion of the lamp through the house by the action of its mover. When physicians use the term spirit, they intend this meaning, a subtle vapour refined by the heat of the heart. However, its explanation is not our concern, as it pertains to the objectives of physicians who treat bodies. As for the aim of the physicians of faith, who treat the heart to guide it to the proximity of the sustainer of the worlds, it does not involve this spirit at all. The second meaning is the knowing, perceiving essence of the human being, which we have already described as one of the meanings of the heart. This is what God, the Exalted, intended by his saying, "Say, the spirit is of the affair of my sustainer." Quran 1785. It is a wondrous divine matter, the true nature of which eludes the grasp of most minds and understandings. The third term is self, nafs, which also carries multiple meanings, two of which are relevant to our purpose. The first refers to the combined force of anger and desire within a person, as will be explained later. This usage is predominant among the people of Sufism, for they mean by self the root that encompasses the blameworthy traits of a person, saying one must strive against the self and break it. This is alluded to in the saying of the Prophet, "Peace and blessings be upon him. Your most bitter enemy is yourself that lies between your two sides." The second meaning refers to the subtle essence we have mentioned, which is the true reality of the human being, their very self and essence. However, it is described with different attributes based on its varying states. When it rests under divine command and is free from disturbance caused by opposing desires, it is called the tranquil self. God, the Exalted, said of such, "O tranquil self, return to your sustainer, well pleased and pleasing to him." Quran 89:27-28. The self in the first sense cannot be imagined to return to God, for it is distanced from him and aligned with the party of Satan. If it has not yet attained tranquility but struggles against the desiring self and opposes it, it is called the self-reproaching self, for it reproaches its owner for shortcomings in worshipping their master. God the Exalted said, "And I swear by the self-reproaching self," Quran 75:2. If it ceases to resist and submits to the dictates of desires and the promptings of Satan, it is called the self that commands to evil. God the Exalted said through the words of Joseph, peace be upon him, or the wife of the Aziz, "And I do not acquit myself. Indeed, the self is a persistent enjoiner of evil." Quran 12:53. It is also possible that what is meant by enjoining evil is the self in the first sense. Thus the self in the first sense is utterly blameworthy, while in the second sense it is praiseworthy, for it is the very essence of the human being, their true self, the knower of God, the Exalted, and of all other knowledge. The fourth term is intellect, AAKL, which also carries multiple meanings, as we have mentioned in the Book of Knowledge. Two of these meanings are relevant to our purpose. The first is that it may refer to the knowledge of the realities of things, thus being an expression of the attribute of knowledge whose locus is the heart. The second is that it may refer to the perceiver of knowledge, which is the heart itself, that subtle essence. We know that every knower has an existence in themselves that is an independent essence, while knowledge is an attribute present within them. The attribute is distinct from the one described by it. The term intellect may be used to refer to the attribute of the knower or to the locus of perception, namely the perceiver. This is what is intended by the saying of the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, the first thing God created was the intellect. For knowledge is an accident that cannot be conceived as the first creation. Rather, its locus must have been created before it or with it, since it is impossible to address an accident directly. Thus it has become clear to you that these names bear meanings such as the physical heart, the physical spirit, the desiring self, and knowledge. These are four meanings to which the four terms are applied. There is also a fifth meaning, which is the subtle, knowing, perceiving essence of the human being, and all four terms collectively refer to it. Hence there are 5 meanings and 4 terms, with each term bearing at least 2 meanings. Most scholars have been confused by the differences and overlapping of these terms, so you find them speaking of thoughts and saying, this is a thought of the intellect, this of the spirit, this of the heart, and this of the self, while the observer remains unaware of the divergent meanings of these names. To unveil this confusion, we have presented the clarification of these terms. Whenever the term heart appears in the Quran and the Sunnah, it refers to that which understands and knows the reality of things in a person. It may be metaphorically referred to as the heart in the chest, due to the special relationship between that subtle essence and the physical heart. Though it is connected to the entire body and employs it, its primary connection is through the heart, as if the heart were its abode, kingdom, realm, and steed. For this reason, Sal al-Tustari likened the heart to the throne and the chest to the footstool, saying, "The heart is the throne and the chest is the footstool." It should not be thought that he believed it to be the throne and footstool of God, for that is impossible. Rather, he meant that it is the kingdom of the human being and the primary domain of their governance and action, akin to the throne and footstool in relation to God, the Exalted. Even this analogy holds only in certain respects, and its detailed explanation does not suit our purpose, so we shall pass over it. Explanation of the armies of the heart. God the Exalted said, "And none knows the soldiers of your sustainer except him." Quran 74:31. For God, glorified be he, has in the hearts, spirits, and other realms armies marshalled whose true nature and detailed numbers are known to none but him. We shall now point to some of the armies of the heart as they pertain to our purpose. The heart has 2 types of armies, one visible to the eyes and another visible only to the insights. The heart is akin to a king, while its armies are like servants and supporters. This is the meaning of army. As for its visible army, it comprises the hand, foot, eye, ear, tongue, and all other outward and inward limbs. All of these are servants to the heart, subjugated to it, for it governs them and directs them. They are created to obey it, unable to oppose or rebel against it. When it commands the eye to open, it opens. When it commands the foot to move, it moves. When it commands the tongue to speak and resolves to do so, it speaks. So it is with all the limbs. The subjugation of the limbs and senses to the heart resembles, in a way, the subjugation of the angels to God, the Exalted, for they are created to obey, unable to disobey him. As God said, they do not disobey God in what he commands them, and they do what they are commanded. Quran 66:6. However, they differ in one aspect. The angels, peace be upon them, are aware of their obedience and compliance, whereas the eyelids obey the heart in opening and closing by way of subjugation, without awareness of themselves or their obedience to the heart. The heart needs these armies due to its dependence on a mount and provisions for the journey for which it was created, the journey to God, the Exalted, and the traversal of stages to meet him. For this purpose hearts were created, as God the Exalted said, "And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me." Quran 51:56. Its mount is the body, and its provision is knowledge. The means that deliver it to these provisions and enable it to acquire them are righteous deeds. A servant cannot reach God the Exalted without settling in the body and transcending this world, for the lower abode must be crossed to reach the higher abode. This world is the field of the hereafter, a station among the stations of guidance. It is called Dunya, the lower world, because it is the lesser of the two abodes. Thus one must gather provisions from this world. The body is the mount by which one reaches this world, so the heart needs to care for and preserve the body. The body is preserved by acquiring what suits it, such as nourishment, and by repelling what harms it, such as causes of destruction. For acquiring nourishment, it requires two armies, an inward one, which is desire, and an outward one, which is the hand and limbs that procure sustenance. Thus, desires necessary for survival were created in the heart, and the limbs, which are the instruments of these desires, were created. For repelling dangers, it requires two armies, an inward one, which is anger, by which it repels threats and avenges enemies, and an outward one, which is the hand and foot, through which it acts according to the dictates of anger. All of this pertains to external matters, so the limbs of the body are like weapons and tools. Since the one in need of nourishment cannot benefit from the desire for nourishment without recognizing it, the heart requires knowledge through two armies, an inward one, which is the perception of hearing, sight, smell, touch, and taste, and an outward one, which is the eye, ear, nose, and so forth. Detailing the reasons for needing them and the wisdom behind them would be lengthy and could not be contained in many volumes. We have hinted at a small portion of this in the Book of Gratitude, so let that suffice. In summary, the armies of the heart can be categorized into three types. The first is the motivator and instigator, either to acquire what is beneficial and suitable, such as desire, or to repel what is harmful and contrary, such as anger. This motivator may be termed will. The second is the mover of the limbs to achieve these objectives, termed power, and these are armies dispersed throughout all limbs, especially the muscles and tendons. The third is the perceiver that recognizes things, akin to scouts, comprising the faculties of sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, dispersed in specific limbs. This is termed knowledge or perception. With each of these, inward armies are corresponding outward armies, which are the limbs composed of fat, flesh, nerves, blood, and bone, prepared as instruments for these armies. For instance, the power of grasping resides in the fingers, the power of sight in the eye, and so with other faculties. We do not speak here of the outward armies, namely the limbs, for they belong to the realm of the visible and tangible. Rather, we speak of the supporting armies that are unseen. The third type, the perceiver, is divided into those residing in outward abodes, which are the five senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, and those residing in inward abodes, which are the cavities of the brain, also five in number. For after a person sees something and closes their eyes, they perceive its image within themselves, which is imagination. Then that image remains with them due to a faculty that preserves it, which is the preserving army. Then they reflect on what they have preserved, combining some elements with others. They recall what they had forgotten and return to it, and they gather the totality of sensory meanings in their imagination through a common sense shared among the senses. Thus, inwardly, there is a common sense, imagination, reflection, recollection, and preservation. Were it not for God creating the faculties of preservation, reflection, recollection, and imagination, the brain would be devoid of them, just as the hand and foot are. These faculties, too, are inward armies with inward abodes. These are the divisions of the heart's armies. Explaining this in a way that the feeble-minded can grasp through examples would be lengthy, and the purpose of a book like this is to benefit the strong and eminent among scholars. Nevertheless, we strive to make it accessible to the weak-minded by striking examples to bring it closer to their understanding. Illustration of the heart with its inward armies know that the armies of anger and desire may fully submit to the heart, aiding it on the path it treads and proving to be good companions on the journey it undertakes. Alternatively, they may rebel against it with obstinacy and defiance, overpowering and estranging it, leading to its ruin and severance from the journey that would bring it to eternal felicity. The heart has another army, which is knowledge, wisdom, and reflection, as will be explained later. It is incumbent upon it to seek aid from this army, for it is the party of God, the exalted, against the other two armies, which may join the party of Satan. If it neglects this aid and allows the armies of anger and desire to dominate it, it will surely perish and suffer a manifest loss. This is the state of most of creation, for their intellects have become subservient to their desires, devising stratagems to fulfill them, whereas it ought to be that desire is subservient to their intellects in what the intellect requires. We shall bring this closer to your understanding through 3 illustrations. The first is to say that the likeness of a person's self within their body, by self, I mean the subtle essence mentioned, is like a king in his city and kingdom. The body is the kingdom of the self, its realm, abode, and city. Its limbs and faculties are akin to craftsmen and workers. The intellectual, reflective faculty is like a wise counsellor and prudent vizier. Desire is like a wicked servant who brings food and provisions to the city, while anger and zeal are like the chief of police. The servant who brings provisions is deceitful, cunning, treacherous, and vile, masquerading as a sincere adviser while harbouring grave harm and deadly poison beneath his counsel. His habit and custom are to oppose the wise vizier in his opinions and plans, never ceasing to challenge and contradict him. Just as a ruler in his kingdom, when relying on his vizier for guidance and turning away from the counsel of this treacherous servant, realizing that the truth lies in the opposite of his opinion, disciplines his chief of police and directs him under the vizier's command, making him obedient to the vizier and empowering him to control this wicked servant and his followers, so that the servant becomes governed rather than governing, commanded rather than commanding. The affairs of his city are set aright, and justice prevails. Likewise, when the self seeks aid from the intellect, disciplines desire through the zeal of anger, and empowers one over the other, sometimes reducing the intensity and excess of anger by opposing desire and enticing it, and at other times subduing desire and overpowering it by unleashing anger and zeal against it, rendering its dictates repugnant, its faculties become balanced, and its morals are refined. Whoever deviates from this path is like those about whom God, the Exalted, said, "Have you seen the one who takes as his God his own desire? And God has sent him astray, having sealed his hearing and his heart." Quran 45:23. And he followed his own desire, so his example is like that of a dog. If you chase him, he pants, or if you leave him, he still pants. Quran 7:176. And of those who restrain the self from desire, God, glorified be he, said, "But as for he who feared the position of his sustainer and prevented the self from unlawful inclination, then indeed paradise will be his refuge." Quran 79:40-41. The method of striving against these armies and directing some against others will be detailed in the Book of Disciplining the Self, God willing. The second illustration is to know that the body is like a city, and the intellect, meaning the perceiving essence of a person, is like a king governing it. Its perceiving faculties, both outward and inward senses, are like its soldiers and aides, and its limbs are like its subjects. The self that commands to evil, which is desire and anger, is like an enemy contending for its kingdom and seeking to destroy its subjects. Thus, the body becomes like a frontier outpost and the self like a guardian stationed there. If it strives against its enemy, defeats and subdues it according to what it loves, its legacy is praised. When it returns to the divine presence as God, the Exalted said, "And God has preferred the Mujahideen through their wealth and their lives over those who remain behind by degrees." Quran 4:95. But if it neglects its outpost and abandons its subjects, its legacy is blamed and retribution is exacted from it before God, the Exalted. It will be said to it on the day of resurrection, "O wicked shepherd, you ate the meat and drank the milk, but you did not shelter the lost nor mend the broken. Today I exact retribution from you." The third illustration is that the intellect is like a skilled hunter on horseback, his desire like his steed, and his anger like his hound. When the hunter is adept, his horse well trained, and his hound disciplined and obedient, he is worthy of success. But if he himself is clumsy, his horse wild, and his hound vicious, neither will his horse respond to him obediently, nor will his hound follow his command submissively. He is likely to perish, let alone achieve what he seeks. The clumsiness of the hunter is like the ignorance of a person, their lack of wisdom, and the dullness of their insight. The wildness of the horse is like the dominance of desire, especially the desires of the stomach and lust. The viciousness of the hound is like the overpowering of anger and its mastery. We ask God for success through his gentle grace. Statement on the distinctive nature of the human heart. Know, O seeker of truth, that all the faculties we have mentioned have been graciously bestowed by God upon the entirety of the animal kingdom, save for the human being. For animals possess desire, anger, and both outward and inward senses. Even a sheep, beholding a wolf with its eyes, discerns enmity within its heart and flees from it. This is the inner perception. Let us, therefore, turn to that which is unique to the human heart, by virtue of which its honour is magnified, rendering it worthy of nearness to God, the Exalted. This uniqueness pertains to knowledge and will. As for knowledge, it encompasses understanding of worldly and otherworldly matters, as well as intellectual truths, realities beyond the realm of the senses, in which animals have no share. Indeed, the universal, necessary sciences are among the exclusive properties of the intellect. For the human being judges that a single individual cannot be imagined to exist in two places at one time. This judgment applies to every person, though the senses perceive only some individuals. Thus, the human's verdict upon all persons transcends what the senses apprehend. If you grasp this in the realm of evident necessary knowledge, it becomes even clearer in the domain of speculative sciences. As for the will, when a person perceives through intellect the consequence of a matter and the path to its rectitude, an innate longing arises within to pursue the course of benefit and to undertake its means. This will is distinct from the desire of appetite or the instinctual will of animals. Indeed, it often opposes base desires. For desire recoils from bloodletting or cupping, while the intellect seeks and demands it, even expending wealth for its sake. Desire inclines toward the pleasures of food during illness, yet the wise find within themselves a restraint against it, a restraint not born of mere appetite. Had God created the intellect, which discerns the outcomes of affairs, without also creating this inner urge that moves the limbs in accordance with the intellect's decree, the intellect's judgment would surely be rendered futile. Thus, the human heart is distinguished by a knowledge and a will that are absent in all other creatures, and even in a child at the dawn of awareness. These faculties emerge only upon reaching maturity. As for desire, anger, and the outward and inward senses, they are present in the child from the outset. The child, in acquiring these sciences, passes through two stages. The first is when the heart encompasses the primary, necessary sciences, such as the knowledge of the impossibility of impossibilities and the possibility of evident possibilities. Though speculative sciences remain unattained, yet they become possible and near to realization. At this stage, the child's state with regard to knowledge is akin to a scribe who knows only the inkpot, the pen, and individual letters, but not their combinations. Such a one approaches writing but has not yet mastered it. The second stage is when acquired sciences are gained through experience and reflection, stored within as a treasury. Whenever desired, the person may return to them. This state is like that of a skilled scribe, deemed a writer even if not actively writing by virtue of their capacity. This represents the pinnacle of human potential, though within this stage there are countless gradations, varying according to the abundance or scarcity of knowledge, the nobility or baseness of what is known, and the means of its acquisition. For some hearts, knowledge is bestowed through divine inspiration as a spontaneous unveiling. For others, it is gained through learning and effort. The attainment may be swift or slow, and in this realm the stations of scholars, sages, prophets, and saints diverge. The degrees of ascent herein are boundless, for the knowledge of God, the sublime, knows no end. The highest rank is that of the prophet, to whom all truths, or most of them, are revealed without effort or toil, through divine unveiling in the shortest span. By this felicity the servant draws near to God, the exalted, in meaning, essence, and attribute, not in place or distance. The steps of these degrees are the stations of those journeying to God, and such stations are limitless. Each wayfarer recognizes the station they have reached in their journey, aware of what lies behind, yet unable to fully comprehend what lies ahead, though they may affirm it through faith in the unseen. Just as we believe in prophethood and the prophet, affirming their reality, yet none knows the essence of prophethood save the prophet himself. So too, the fetus knows not the state of the infant, nor the infant the state of the discerning child and the necessary sciences open to them, nor the discerning child the state of the mature intellect and the speculative sciences they acquire. Likewise, the rational person cannot fathom what God unveils to his friends and prophets of his boundless grace and mercy. What God opens to humanity of his mercy, none can withhold, for this mercy is granted by the decree of divine generosity and bounty, not withheld from any. Yet it manifests only in hearts exposed to the breezes of God's mercy, as the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Verily your sustainer has breezes of grace in the days of your lives, so expose yourselves to them." Exposure to these breezes comes through purifying the heart and cleansing it of the filth and turbidity arising from blameworthy traits, as shall be elaborated later. To this boundless generosity allude the sayings of the prophet, "Peace and blessings be upon him," such as, "God descends each night to the lowest heaven, saying, 'Is there one who calls that I may answer?' And his narration from his sustainer, the mighty and majestic, 'How great is the longing of the righteous to meet me, and I am even more eager to meet them.' And the divine words, 'Whoever draws near to me by a handspan, I draw near to them by a cubit.' All these point to the truth that the lights of knowledge are not veiled from hearts due to stinginess or withholding on the part of the bestower, who is far exalted above such traits, but rather due to the impurity, turbidity, and preoccupation of the hearts themselves. For hearts are like vessels. As long as they are filled with water, no air can enter. Hearts preoccupied with other than God cannot receive the knowledge of God, the exalted. To this alludes the saying of the prophet, "Peace and blessings be upon him." Were it not that devils hover around the hearts of the children of Adam, they would gaze upon the dominion of the heavens. From this it becomes clear that the distinguishing trait of humanity is knowledge and wisdom, and the noblest form of knowledge is the knowledge of God, his attributes and his acts. Through this, human perfection is attained, and in this perfection lies their felicity and readiness for proximity to the divine presence of majesty and perfection. The body is but a mount for the soul, and the soul a dwelling for knowledge. Knowledge is the ultimate purpose of humanity, and the trait for which they were created. Just as a horse shares with a donkey the capacity to bear burdens, yet is distinguished by its ability to charge and retreat, and by its noble form, so too is the horse created for this distinct trait. If this trait is neglected, it descends to the lowly rank of the donkey. Similarly, humanity shares certain traits with the donkey and the horse, yet surpasses them in qualities unique to it, qualities akin to those of the angels near to the sustainer of the worlds. Humanity occupies a rank between beasts and angels. Insofar as they nourish themselves and reproduce, they are like plants. Insofar as they sense and move by choice, they are like animals, and in their form and stature they are like an image carved upon a wall. Their true distinction lies in knowing the realities of things. Whoever employs all their limbs and faculties as aids to knowledge and action resembles the angels, and is worthy to join their ranks, deserving to be called angelic and divine. As God, the Exalted, reported of the women in the story of Joseph, "Peace be upon him, this is no mortal, this can only be a noble angel." Quran 12:31. But whoever directs their efforts to pursuing bodily pleasures, eating as cattle eat, descends to the lowest horizon of beasts, becoming either gluttonous as an ox, voracious as a pig, ferocious as a dog or cat, resentful as a camel, arrogant as a leopard, cunning as a fox, or combining all these traits as a rebellious devil. There is no limb or sense that cannot be employed on the path to God the Exalted, as shall be elucidated in part in the Book of Gratitude. Whoever uses them thus attains success, and whoever turns away from this path suffers loss and disappointment. The essence of felicity lies in making the meeting with God, the Exalted, one's ultimate aim, the hereafter one's abode, the world a mere way station, the body a mount, and the limbs one's servants. The perceiving essence of the human resides in the heart, the centre of their dominion, like a king. The imaginative faculty, lodged in the forepart of the brain, serves as the king's courier, gathering tidings of the sensed world. The retentive faculty, dwelling in the rear of the brain, acts as the treasurer. The tongue functions as the interpreter, the moving limbs as scribes, and the five senses as spies, each assigned to report from a specific domain: the eye to the realm of colours, the ear to the realm of sounds, the nose to the realm of scents, and so forth. These are the bearers of tidings, gathering news from these worlds and conveying it to the imaginative faculty, the courier, who delivers it to the treasurer, the retentive faculty. The treasurer presents it to the king, who extracts from it what is needed to govern their realm, complete their journey, overcome their adversary, and fend off the brigands of the path. If they do so, they are blessed, successful, and grateful for God's bounty. But if they neglect this order or employ it to serve their enemies' desire, anger, and fleeting gains, or to embellish their path while neglecting their true abode, for the world is but a path to traverse, and the hereafter their homeland and resting place, they are forsaken, wretched, ungrateful for God's bounty, squandering God's troops, aiding God's enemies, and betraying God's party. Such a one deserves divine wrath and estrangement in the final return and destination. We seek refuge in God from such a fate. To this parable alludes Ka'b al-Ahbar, who said, "I entered upon Aisha, may God be pleased with her, and said, the human's eyes are guides, their ears sentinels, their tongue a translator, their hands wings, their feet messengers, and their heart a king. If the king is pure, so too are their troops." She replied, "Thus have I heard the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, say." And Ali, may God be pleased with him, said in describing hearts, "God the Exalted has vessels on his earth, and they are the hearts. The most beloved to him are the softest, purest, and firmest." He explained, "The firmest in faith, the purest in certainty, and the softest toward brethren." This echoes the divine words, "They are stern against the disbelievers, yet compassionate among themselves." Quran 48:29, and the parable of his light is like a niche wherein is a lamp. Quran 24:35. Ubay ibn Ka'b, may God be pleased with him, said, "It means the light of the believer and their heart." And God's words, or like darknesses in a fathomless sea, Quran 24:40, refer to the heart of the hypocrite. Zayd ibn Aslam said regarding the verse, in a guarded tablet, Quran 85:22, that it is the heart of the believer. Sal said, "The heart and chest are like the throne and the footstool. These are parables of the heart." Statement on the confluences of the heart's attributes and parables. Know, O wayfarer, that humanity in their creation and composition is accompanied by four impurities, from which arise four types of attributes: the predatory, the bestial, the satanic, and the divine. From the dominance of anger, they engage in the acts of predators, enmity, hatred and aggression against others through striking and cursing. From the dominance of desire, they partake in the acts of beasts, gluttony, greed, lust and the like. From the aspect of their soul being a divine command, as God the Exalted said, say, "The Spirit is by the command of my sustainer," Quran 17:85. They claim lordship for themselves, loving dominance, superiority, exclusivity and autonomy in all affairs, seeking uniqueness in leadership, slipping free from the bonds of servitude and humility, desiring to comprehend all sciences and even claiming knowledge, understanding and mastery over the realities of things. They rejoice when attributed to knowledge and grieve when attributed to ignorance. Mastery over all truths and dominance over all creation through power are traits of lordship, and in humanity lies a yearning for this. Insofar as they are distinguished from beasts by discernment, while sharing with them anger and desire, a satanic quality emerges within, making them malevolent. They employ discernment to devise forms of evil, achieving their aims through deceit, trickery and guile. Presenting evil under the guise of good, these are the morals of devils. Every human bears a trace of these four origins, the divine, the satanic, the predatory, and the bestial, all gathered within the heart. It is as though within the skin of a human there dwells a pig, a dog, a devil, and a sage. The pig is desire, for the pig is not reviled for its colour, shape, or form, but for its greed, voracity, and lust. The dog is anger, for the ferocious beast and the rabid dog are not deemed such by their form, colour, or shape, but by the spirit of savagery, aggression, and hostility. Within the human lies the ferocity of the predator through anger and the greed of the pig through desire. The pig incites toward indecency and abomination through gluttony, while the dog through anger drives toward oppression and harm. The devil ceaselessly stirs the desire of the pig and the rage of the dog, goading one against the other, embellishing for them what they are naturally inclined toward. The sage, the emblem of intellect, is tasked with repelling the devil's plots and deceit by unveiling their distortions with piercing insight and radiant light, breaking the pig's voracity by unleashing the dog upon it, for anger can shatter the force of desire, and subduing the dog's ferocity by setting the pig against it, rendering the dog subservient to its governance. If the sage succeeds in this, balance is achieved. Justice prevails in the kingdom of the body, and all proceed upon the straight path. But if the sage fails to subdue them, and is instead subjugated and employed by them, they persist in devising schemes and refining thoughts to satiate the pig and appease the dog. Thus they remain in perpetual servitude to a dog and a pig. This is the state of most people, whose primary concern is the belly, the loins, rivalry with enemies and self-admiration. How astonishing it is that such a person condemns idol worshippers for venerating stones, yet if the veil were lifted from them and their true state revealed, as it is unveiled to the enlightened, whether in sleep or wakefulness, they would see themselves standing before a pig, prostrating at times, bowing at others, awaiting its signal and command. Whenever the pig stirs to demand its desires, they hasten to serve and fulfill its cravings. Or they would see themselves before a rabid dog, worshipping it, obedient, attentive to its demands, meticulously devising means to obey it, thereby pleasing their devil. For it is the devil who rouses the pig and incites the dog, compelling them to employ the person in their service. Thus, in this sense, they worship the devil by worshipping these two. Let every servant observe their movements and stillness, their silence and speech, their standing and sitting, and look with the eye of insight. If they are just to themselves, they will see naught but a life spent in service to these entities. A service that is the epitome of injustice, for it renders the master a slave, the lord a subject, the sovereign a servant, and the conqueror the conquered. For the intellect is worthy of sovereignty, dominance and mastery, yet it has been enslaved to serve these three. Consequently, from obedience to these three, traits seep into the heart, accumulating until they become a seal and a rust that destroy the heart and bring it to ruin. Obedience to the pig of desire begets traits such as shamelessness, malice, extravagance, miserliness, hypocrisy, brazenness, frivolity, playfulness, greed, envy, resentment, gloating, and the like. Obedience to the dog of anger spreads into the heart traits like recklessness, prodigality, arrogance, insolence, rage, pride, conceit, mockery, disdain, contempt for others, the desire for harm, and the lust for oppression, among others. Obedience to the devil through submission to desire and anger engenders traits such as cunning, deception, trickery, guile, audacity, obfuscation, subterfuge, fraud, malice, and vileness. But if the order is reversed and all are subdued under the governance of the divine attribute, the heart becomes a seat for divine qualities, knowledge, wisdom, certainty, comprehension of realities as they are, and mastery over all through the power of knowledge and insight. It earns precedence over creation through the perfection and majesty of knowledge, becoming independent of worshipping desire and anger. From restraining the pig of desire and returning it to moderation, noble traits emerge in the heart, such as chastity, contentment, tranquility, asceticism, piety, godliness, affability, dignified bearing, modesty, elegance, helpfulness, and the like. From subduing the force of anger, curbing it, and returning it to the necessary limit arise traits like courage, generosity, valor, self-control, patience, forbearance, endurance, forgiveness, steadfastness, nobility, chivalry, dignity, and others. The heart, in this sense, is like a mirror surrounded by these influencing forces whose effects continuously reach it. The praiseworthy effects we have mentioned enhance the mirror of the heart with clarity, brilliance, light, and radiance until the truth shines forth within it, and the reality of the sought-after matter in religion is unveiled. To such a heart alludes the saying of the prophet, "Peace and blessings be upon him." When God intends good for a servant, he places within their heart a counselor. And his saying, "Whoever has a counselor in their heart has a protector from God." This is the heart in which remembrance finds a home. As God, the Exalted, said, "Verily, in the remembrance of God do hearts find rest." Quran 13:28. As for the blameworthy effects, they are like dark smoke rising to the mirror of the heart, accumulating layer upon layer until it blackens and darkens, becoming entirely veiled from God, the Exalted. This is the seal, the rust. As God, the Exalted, said, "Nay, but what they used to earn has rusted their hearts." Quran 83:14. And, "Had we so willed, we could have struck them for their sins and sealed their hearts, so they would not hear." Quran 7:100. Thus, he linked the inability to hear to the sealing caused by sins, just as he linked hearing to piety, saying, "Fear God and listen." Quran 5:108. And fear God, and God will teach you. Quran 2:82. Whenever sins accumulate, the heart is sealed, becoming blind to perceiving the truth and to rectitude in religion. It trivializes the affair of the hereafter, magnifies the affairs of this world, and becomes wholly preoccupied with them. When tidings of the hereafter and its perils reach such a heart, they enter one ear and exit the other, finding no resting place within, nor stirring it to repentance and redress. Such are those who have despaired of the hereafter, just as the disbelievers despair of those in the graves. This is the meaning of the heart's blackening through sins, as articulated in the Quran and the Sunnah. Maymun ibn Mihran said, "When a servant sins, a black mark is etched upon their heart. If they desist and repent, it is polished away. But if they persist, the mark deepens until it overtakes the heart. This is the rust." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The heart of the believer is bare, with a shining lamp within, while the heart of the disbeliever is black and inverted." Obedience to God, the Exalted, by opposing desires, polishes the heart, while disobedience darkens it. Whoever follows a sin with a good deed, erasing its trace, prevents their heart from complete darkness, though its light diminishes like a mirror breathed upon and then wiped, breathed upon again and wiped again. It never remains entirely free of tarnish. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Hearts are of four kinds. A bare heart with a shining lamp within, which is the heart of the believer. A black, inverted heart, which is the heart of the disbeliever. A veiled heart bound in its covering, which is the heart of the hypocrite, and a shielded heart containing both faith and hypocrisy. The faith within it is like a plant nourished by pure water, while the hypocrisy is like a sore fed by pus and filth." Whichever of the two substances predominates determines its state. God, the Exalted, said, "Indeed, those who fear God, when a whisper from Satan touches them, remember and behold, they see clearly." Quran 7, 201. Thus, he informed that the clarity and vision of the heart are attained through remembrance, and that none can achieve this save those who fear God. Piety is the gateway to remembrance. Remembrance the gateway to unveiling, and unveiling the gateway to the supreme triumph, the triumph of meeting God, the Exalted. Statement on the heart in relation to knowledge, especially know, O seeker of truth, that the seat of knowledge is the heart, by which I mean that subtle essence which governs all the limbs of the body, the sovereign served and obeyed by every organ. The heart in its relation to the realities of knowledge is akin to a mirror in its relation to the images of myriad colours. Just as a coloured object has a form, and that form imprints itself upon the mirror, becoming manifest therein, so too does every known reality possess a truth, and the image of that truth is reflected in the mirror of the heart, becoming clear and evident. And just as the mirror is distinct, the images of persons are distinct, and the appearance of those images in the mirror is yet another distinct matter, making three separate entities. So too here there are three: the heart, the realities of things, and the presence of those realities within the heart. Thus, the knower is the heart in which the likeness of the realities of things resides. The known is the essence of those realities, and knowledge itself is the imprint of that likeness upon the mirror of the heart. Just as grasping, for instance, requires a grasper, such as the hand, a grasped object, such as a sword, and a connection between the two through the sword being held in the hand, termed grasping, so too is the arrival of the likeness of the known to the heart called knowledge. The reality may exist, and the heart may exist, yet knowledge may not yet be attained, for knowledge is the very arrival of that reality into the heart. It is akin to a sword existing and a hand existing, yet the act of grasping or holding not occurring until the sword is placed in the hand. Indeed, grasping is the actual presence of the sword in the hand, but the known itself does not enter the heart in its essence. For one who knows fire does not have the essence of fire within their heart. Rather, what is present is its definition and reality, corresponding to its form. Thus, the analogy of the mirror is more apt, for the essence of a person does not enter the mirror, but only a corresponding likeness appears therein. Similarly, the presence of a likeness corresponding to the reality of the known in the heart is what is called knowledge. Moreover, just as an image does not appear in a mirror due to 5 reasons: first, a deficiency in its form, as with a piece of iron before it is shaped, polished, and refined; second, due to rust, tarnish, or dullness, even if its form is complete; third, due to being turned away from the direction of the image, as when the image is behind the mirror; fourth, due to a veil placed between the mirror and the image; and fifth, due to ignorance of the direction in which the desired image lies, making it impossible to align the mirror with it. So too is the heart a mirror prepared to reflect the truth of the divine reality in all matters. Yet hearts remain devoid of the knowledge they lack due to these 5 causes. The first is a deficiency in the heart's essence, as with the heart of a child, for whom knowledge does not manifest due to its immaturity. The second is the tarnish of sins and impurities that accumulate upon the heart's surface through excessive desires, preventing its clarity and brilliance, thus obstructing the appearance of truth within it due to darkness and accumulation. The third is the heart being turned away from the direction of the sought truth. For even a pure and obedient heart may not clearly reflect the divine reality if it does not seek the truth and does not align its mirror toward the desired goal. Instead, it may be preoccupied with the details of bodily acts of worship or the means of worldly sustenance, without directing its contemplation toward the divine presence and the hidden divine realities. The fourth is the veil, for even a heart that subdues its desires and focuses its thought on a particular truth may not have that truth unveiled due to preconceived beliefs adopted in childhood through blind imitation and naive trust, which form a barrier between it and the true reality. The fifth is ignorance of the direction from which the sought truth may be found. For the seeker of knowledge cannot attain understanding of the unknown except by recalling related knowledge and arranging it in a specific order known to scholars as the method of reflection, thereby uncovering the direction of the desired truth and allowing its reality to shine in the heart. Thus, every heart, by its innate nature, is capable of perceiving truths, for it is a noble divine creation, distinguished from all other substances of the world by this unique honour. To this alludes the verse of the Almighty: "Verily, we offered the trust unto the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to bear it and were afraid of it, yet man bore it." Quran 33:72. This trust is the knowledge and affirmation of divine unity for which every human heart is prepared and capable by its origin, though it is hindered from realizing this trust by the causes we have mentioned. Statement on the state of the heart in relation to the categories of intellectual, religious, worldly, and otherworldly knowledge. Know that the heart, by its innate disposition, is prepared to receive the realities of knowledge, as previously stated. However, the knowledge that resides within it is divided into intellectual and religious categories. Intellectual knowledge is further subdivided into necessary and acquired, and the acquired into worldly and otherworldly. Intellectual knowledge refers to that which the innate intellect decrees without reliance on imitation or hearsay. It is divided into necessary knowledge, whose origin and manner of acquisition are unknown, such as a person's understanding that one individual cannot be in two places at once, or that a single thing cannot be both created and eternal, existing and non-existent simultaneously, and acquired knowledge, which is gained through learning and reasoning. Both categories may be termed intellect. The heart in this regard is like the eye, and the innate intellect within it resembles the faculty of sight in the eye. The faculty of perception is a subtle essence, absent in blindness and present in sight, even if the eyes are closed or night has fallen. The knowledge attained in the heart is akin to the faculty of sight, perceiving tangible objects. The delay of knowledge in the heart during childhood until the age of discernment or maturity mirrors the delay of vision until the sun rises and its light pours upon visible objects. The pen with which God inscribes knowledge upon the tablets of hearts is akin to the disk of the sun. Knowledge does not manifest in the heart of a child before discernment, because the tablet of their heart is not yet prepared to receive the imprint of knowledge. As for religious knowledge, it is that which is received through imitation from the prophets, peace and blessings be upon them, acquired through learning the book of God and the sunnah of his messenger, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and understanding their meanings after hearing them. Through this, the heart attains perfection and is safeguarded from ailments and diseases. Intellectual knowledge alone is insufficient for the heart's salvation, though it is necessary. Just as intellect alone is insufficient for maintaining the body's health without knowledge of the properties of medicines and herbs learned from physicians. Yet, understanding such knowledge after hearing it is impossible without intellect. Thus, intellect cannot dispense with revelation, nor can revelation dispense with intellect. One who relies solely on imitation while wholly abandoning intellect is ignorant, and one who suffices with intellect alone, neglecting the lights of the Quran and Sunnah, is deluded. Beware of belonging to either of these two groups, rather combine the two foundations. Intellectual knowledge is like nourishment, while religious knowledge is like medicine. A sick person is harmed by food if medicine is absent, just as the diseases of the heart cannot be treated except by the remedies derived from the Sharia, namely the duties of worship and actions prescribed by the prophets, peace be upon them, to purify hearts. Statement on the difference between inspiration and learning, and the difference between the path of the Sufis in unveiling truth and the path of the rationalists. Know that knowledge which is not necessary but arises in the heart, under certain conditions, varies in its manner of acquisition. At times it surges into the heart as if cast therein from an unknown source. At other times it is acquired through reasoning and learning. That which comes without effort or the contrivance of proof is called inspiration, while that gained through reasoning is called reflection and insight. What occurs in the heart without effort, learning, or striving on the part of the servant is divided into that whose origin and manner the servant does not know, and that accompanied by awareness of the cause from which it was derived, namely, the vision of the angel who imparts it to the heart. The former is called inspiration, or a whisper in the soul, while the latter is called revelation, exclusive to the prophets. The former is specific to the saints and the pure, while the knowledge acquired through reasoning is the domain of scholars. In truth, the heart is prepared to reflect the divine reality in all things, yet it is barred from this by the 5 causes previously mentioned. These act as veils drawn between the mirror of the heart and the preserved tablet, upon which is inscribed all that God has decreed until the day of resurrection. The unveiling of the realities of knowledge from the mirror of the preserved tablet into the mirror of the heart resembles the reflection of an image from one mirror into another facing it. The veil between the mirrors is sometimes removed by hand and at other times blown away by the wind. Likewise, the breezes of divine grace may blow, lifting the veils from the eyes of hearts, revealing to them some of what is inscribed on the preserved tablet. The path of the Sufis inclines toward inspired knowledge rather than learned knowledge. Thus, they do not strive to study knowledge or acquire what authors have compiled, nor do they delve into arguments and proofs. They say the path lies in prioritizing spiritual struggle, erasing blameworthy traits, severing all attachments, and turning with the entirety of one's resolve toward God. When this is achieved, God himself takes charge of the servant's heart, undertaking to illuminate it with the lights of knowledge. When God assumes care of the heart, mercy overflows upon it, light shines within, the chest expands, the secrets of the unseen realm are unveiled, the veil of heedlessness is lifted from the heart's face by the gentleness of mercy, and the realities of divine matters gleam within it. The servant's role is merely to prepare through pure purification, to focus resolve with sincere intent and complete yearning, and to remain in constant anticipation of what God may open from his mercy. As for the rationalists and those who rely on reflection, they do not deny the existence or possibility of this path, nor its potential to lead to this goal in rare cases, for it was the state of most prophets and saints. Yet they find this path arduous, its fruits slow to ripen, and its conditions difficult to fulfill. They argue that erasing attachments to such an extent is nearly impossible, and even if achieved temporarily, maintaining it is even more elusive, for the slightest whisper or stray thought disrupts the heart. They hold that engaging in the path of learning is more reliable and closer to the goal, akin to one who abandons learning jurisprudence, claiming that the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, became a jurist through revelation and inspiration without repetition or study, hoping that through spiritual exercise and perseverance they too might reach such a state. Such a person, they argue, wrongs themselves and wastes their life, like one who abandons earning a livelihood and farming in hope of stumbling upon a treasure, a possibility yet exceedingly remote. Thus, they insist that one must first acquire what scholars have attained and understand their teachings, and only then await the unveiling of what remains hidden from other scholars through spiritual struggle. Explanation of the difference between the two states with a tangible example. Know, O seeker of truth, that the marvels of the heart transcend the grasp of the senses, for the heart itself lies beyond the reach of sensory perception. That which cannot be apprehended by the senses eludes the understanding of feeble minds, save through a tangible analogy. Thus we draw near to the comprehension of the weak intellect through 2 illustrative examples. The first is this. Imagine a basin dug into the earth. It is conceivable that water may be channeled into it from above, through rivers open to its brim. Alternatively, one might dig deeper into the basin, removing the earth until it nears the hidden reservoir of pure water, whereupon the water bursts forth from beneath. This water from below is purer, more enduring, and often more abundant. So too is the heart, like this basin, and knowledge akin to water. The 5 senses are as the rivers. Knowledge may flow into the heart through these sensory streams, through observation and contemplation, until it brims with understanding. Yet it is also possible to close these rivers through solitude, seclusion, and the lowering of the gaze, turning instead to the depths of the heart, purifying it and lifting the veils that obscure it, until springs of knowledge erupt from within. If you ask, how can knowledge burst forth from the essence of the heart when it is empty of it? Know that this is among the wondrous mysteries of the heart, not to be fully unveiled in the realm of practical knowledge. Yet what may be said is that the truths of all things are inscribed upon the preserved tablet, and even within the hearts of the angels drawn near to the divine. Just as an architect sketches the design of a house on a blank sheet before bringing it into existence according to that blueprint, so too did the Creator of the heavens and the earth inscribe the design of the universe from its beginning to its end upon the preserved tablet, and then brought it into being in accordance with that archetype. The world that has come into existence bears an image that is reflected into the senses and the imagination. For when one gazes upon the heavens and the earth, then closes their eyes, they behold the image of the heavens and the earth within their imagination, as though still looking upon them. Even if the heavens and the earth were to vanish while the observer remained, they would still find the image of the heavens and the earth within themselves, as if witnessing them anew. From this imagination an imprint passes to the heart, and there the realities of things perceived by the senses and imagination take root. What is held in the heart corresponds to what is in the imagination, and what is in the imagination mirrors the existent world beyond the human mind and heart. And this existent world, in turn, aligns with the archetype in the preserved tablet. Thus, the universe seems to possess 4 degrees of existence: its existence in the preserved tablet preceding its corporeal manifestation, its true tangible existence that follows, its imaginative existence, meaning the image formed in the mind, and finally its intellectual existence, which is the image held within the heart. Some of these existences are spiritual, others corporeal, and among the spiritual some are more ethereal than others. This subtlety is part of the divine wisdom, for he has made your tiny pupil capable of imprinting the vast expanse of the universe, the heavens and the earth within it. From this sensory existence, an impression flows to the imagination, and from there to the heart. You perceive only that which reaches you. Had the Creator not placed a reflection of the entire universe within your essence, you would remain ignorant of all that lies beyond yourself. Glory be to Him who has orchestrated these wonders in the hearts and eyes, yet veiled the hearts and eyes from comprehending them, so that most of humanity remains unaware of the marvels of their own souls. Let us return to our intended purpose. We say, the heart may come to hold the reality and image of the universe, sometimes through the senses, and at other times directly from the preserved tablet. This is akin to how the eye may perceive the image of the sun, either by gazing directly at it or by looking at water that reflects its form. Whenever the veil between the heart and the preserved tablet is lifted, the heart beholds things therein, and knowledge bursts forth to it, rendering it independent of drawing from the senses. This is like water gushing from the depths of the earth. But when the heart turns to the imaginings derived from sensory perceptions, these become a veil, obstructing its vision of the preserved tablet. Just as water gathering in rivers prevents it from bursting forth from the ground, so too one who looks at the reflection of the sun in water is not gazing at the sun itself. Hence, the heart has 2 doors, one opening to the realm of the unseen, the preserved tablet and the angelic world, the other opening to the 5 senses, tethered to the visible world of dominion and testimony. The visible world, too, mirrors the unseen realm in a certain manner. The opening of the heart's door to the senses is evident to you. As for the inner door to the unseen realm and the contemplation of the preserved tablet, its certainty is known through reflection upon the marvels of true dreams, wherein the heart perceives what shall come to pass or what has been without drawing from the senses. This door opens for those who devote themselves solely to the remembrance of God, the Exalted. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, The singular ones have surpassed others. It was asked, "Who are the singular ones, O Messenger of God?" He replied, "Those who are absorbed in the remembrance of God. Remembrance lightens their burdens, and they shall come on the day of resurrection unencumbered." Then describing them, he conveyed from God the Exalted, "Then I turn my face toward them. Do you think that one to whom I turn, my face knows what I intend to grant them?" And God, the Exalted, said, "The first thing I grant them is that I cast light into their hearts, so they speak of me as I speak of them." The entry to such tidings is through the inner door. Thus, the difference between the knowledge of the saints and prophets and the knowledge of scholars and philosophers lies herein. The knowledge of the former flows from within the heart, through the door open to the unseen realm, while the knowledge of wisdom comes through the doors of the senses, open to the visible world. The wonders of the heart and its oscillation between the worlds of testimony and the unseen cannot be fully expounded in the realm of practical knowledge. This first example elucidates the distinction between the two pathways of knowledge. The second example clarifies the difference between the endeavours of the two groups, namely, the efforts of scholars and those of the saints. Scholars labour to acquire knowledge itself, drawing it into the heart, while the saints among the Sufis strive solely to polish, purify and refine their hearts. It is narrated that the people of China and the Romans once boasted of their artistry in engraving and imagery before a king. The king decided to provide them with a surface, one side for the Chinese to engrave, and the other for the Romans, with a curtain between them to prevent each group from seeing the other's work. So it was done. The Romans gathered an array of exotic pigments beyond count, while the Chinese entered without any paint, focusing instead on polishing and refining their side. When the Romans finished, the Chinese claimed they too had completed their work. The king marvelled at their claim, wondering how they could have finished without pigment. It was said, "How did you complete it without paint?" They replied, "Raise the curtain and see." When the curtain was lifted, their side shimmered with the reflection of the Romans' wondrous artistry, enhanced by an added brilliance and lustre, for it had become like a polished mirror through relentless refinement. Thus their side surpassed in beauty due to its impeccable polish. Likewise, the care of the saints in purifying, polishing and clarifying their hearts until the truth shines within them with utmost radiance mirrors the work of the Chinese. In contrast, the efforts of philosophers and scholars to acquire and engrave knowledge within the heart resemble the work of the Romans. Regardless of the path, the heart of a believer does not perish. Its knowledge at the moment of death is not erased, nor does its clarity become clouded. To this Hassan al-Basri, may God have mercy on him, alluded when he said, "The dust does not consume the abode of faith. Rather, it becomes a means of nearness to God, the Exalted. As for what one attains of knowledge itself, or the purity and readiness to receive knowledge, there is no true felicity without it. Felicity lies only in knowledge and recognition, though some forms of felicity are nobler than others, just as there is no wealth save through money. One who possesses a single coin is wealthy, as is one who owns overflowing treasuries, yet the degrees of the felicitous differ according to their varying levels of knowledge and faith, just as the ranks of the wealthy differ according to the abundance or scarcity of their wealth. Knowledge is light, and believers hasten to meet their sustainer only with their lights. God, the Exalted, says, "Their light will run before them and by their right hands." Quran 57:12. It is narrated that some shall be granted a light as vast as a mountain, while others receive lesser light, until the least among them is a man given light only upon the tip of his toe, flickering on and off. When it shines, he steps forward. When it dims, he stands still. Their passage over the bridge is according to the measure of their light. Some cross in the blink of an eye, others like lightning, some as a cloud, others like falling stars, and some like a galloping steed in full stride. As for the one whose light is but on the tip of his toe, he crawls on his face, hands and feet, dragging one limb and clinging with another, the flames grazing his sides until he finally passes through. By this, the disparity in faith among people becomes evident. Were the faith of Abu Bakr to be weighed against the faith of all the worlds, save the prophets and messengers, it would outweigh them. This is akin to saying, were the light of the sun to be measured against the light of all lanterns, it would surpass them. For the light of the common folk is like that of a lantern. For some, it is like the glow of a candle. The faith of the truthful ones shines like the light of the moon and stars, and the faith of the prophets radiates like the sun. Just as the vast horizons are unveiled by the light of the sun, while the light of a lantern reveals only a narrow corner of a room, so too does the expanse of divine knowledge and the vastness of the unseen realm unveil itself in the hearts of the knowers according to the breadth of their illumination. Thus it is narrated that on the day of resurrection it shall be proclaimed, "Take out of the fire whoever has in their heart the weight of an atom of faith, or half an atom, or a quarter, or a grain of barley, or a speck." All this points to the varying degrees of faith. It implies that even such minute measures of faith do not prevent entry into the fire. Yet whoever possesses faith exceeding an atom's weight shall not remain therein, for if they entered, they would be commanded to be brought out. Even one with the weight of an atom in their heart does not deserve eternal abode in the fire, though they may enter it. So too the saying of the prophet, "Peace and blessings be upon him." Nothing is better than 1,000 of its like, save the believing soul, beautifully hints at the superiority of the heart that knows God with certainty. For it surpasses 1,000 ordinary hearts. God the Exalted declares, "And you are the highest if you are believers," Quran 3:139, exalting the believers over mere submitters, intending by believers those with true knowledge, not mere imitators. He also says, "God will raise those who have believed among you, and those who were given knowledge by degrees," Quran 58:11. Distinguishing here between those who believe without knowledge and those endowed with understanding. This indicates that the term believer may apply to an imitator, even if their affirmation lacks insight or unveiling. Ibn Abbas, may God be pleased with him, interpreted the verse, "and those who were given knowledge by degrees," as meaning that God elevates the knower above the mere believer by 700 degrees, the distance between each degree being as vast as that between the heavens and the earth. The prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Most of the dwellers of paradise are the simple-hearted, while the highest abodes are for those of understanding." He also said, "The superiority of the scholar over the worshipper is like my superiority over the least of my companions," and in another narration, "like the superiority of the full moon over the rest of the stars." Through these testimonies, the disparity in the ranks of the dwellers of paradise becomes clear, according to the varying states of their hearts and their knowledge. Thus, the day of resurrection is the day of regret, for the one deprived of God's mercy suffers immense loss and regret. The deprived shall behold ranks far above their own, their gaze upon them akin to a man possessing 10 coins, looking upon one who owns the earth from east to west. Both are wealthy, yet how vast is the difference between them, and how great the regret of the one who misses such a portion. Truly, the hereafter holds greater degrees and greater distinction. Explanation of the evidences from sacred law, confirming the validity of the path of the Sufis in attaining knowledge not through conventional learning or familiar means. Know, O seeker, that whoever has unveiled even the slightest matter through inspiration or an insight falling into the heart from an unknown source has come to recognize the validity of this path, and whoever has not experienced this within themselves must believe in it, for the degree of true knowledge is exceedingly rare. Its truth is attested by the evidences of sacred law, personal experiences, and narrated accounts. As for the evidences, God the Exalted says, "And those who strive for us, we will surely guide them to our ways." Quran 29:69. Every wisdom that emerges from the heart through persistent worship without formal learning comes by way of unveiling and inspiration. The prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever acts upon what they know, God will grant them knowledge of what they did not know." and guide them in their actions until they earn paradise. But whoever does not act upon what they know shall wander in their knowledge and not be guided in their actions until they earn the fire. God the Exalted also says, "And whoever fears God, he will make for them a way out of difficulties and doubts and provide for them from where they do not expect." Quran 65, 2, 3, meaning he grants them knowledge without learning and insight without experience. He further declares, "O you who have believed, if you fear God, he will grant you a criterion." Quran 8:29, interpreted as a light by which one distinguishes between truth and falsehood and emerges from doubts. For this reason, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, frequently sought light in his supplications, saying, "O God, grant me light, increase me in light, and place light in my heart, my grave, my hearing, my sight," until he said, "In my hair, my skin, my flesh, my blood, and my bones." When asked about the verse, "So is one whose breast God has expanded to Islam, and he is upon a light from his sustainer," Quran 39:22, he replied, "It is expansiveness. When light is cast into the heart, the breast widens and opens." He also prayed for Ibn Abbas, saying, "O God, grant him understanding in religion and teach him interpretation." Ali, may God be pleased with him, said, "We have nothing secretly conveyed to us by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, save that God grants a servant understanding in his book, and this is not through learning." It is said in the interpretation of the verse, "He gives wisdom to whom he wills," Quran 2, 269, that it refers to understanding in God's book. God also says, "And we gave understanding of it to Solomon," Quran 21:79, specifying what was unveiled under the name of understanding. Abu al-Darda used to say, "The believer is one who sees with the light of God from behind a thin veil. By God, it is the truth that he casts into their hearts and lets flow upon their tongues." Some of the early generations said, "The intuition of a believer is like prophecy." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Beware of the insight of a believer, for they see with the light of God." This is alluded to in the verse, "Indeed, in that are signs for those of discernment," Quran 15:75. And we have detailed the signs for a people who are certain, Quran 2:118. Hassan narrated from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that he said, "Knowledge is of two kinds, an inner knowledge in the heart, and that is the beneficial knowledge." When some scholars were asked about this inner knowledge, they replied, "It is a secret from among God's secrets, cast by God into the hearts of his beloved, unseen by angel or human." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Among my community are those inspired, taught and spoken to, and Umar is among them." Ibn Abbas, may God be pleased with him, recited, "And we did not send before you any messenger or prophet or inspired one," meaning the truthful ones. The inspired are those to whom matters are unveiled in the depths of their hearts from within, not from external sensory perceptions. The Quran explicitly states that piety is the key to guidance and unveiling, which is knowledge without learning. God the Exalted says, "And what God has created in the heavens and the earth are signs for a people who fear him," Quran 10:6, specifying them. He also says, "This is a clear statement to the people and a guidance and instruction for those who fear God," Quran 3:138. Abu Yazid and others used to say, "The true scholar is not one who memorizes from a book and becomes ignorant when they forget what they memorized. Rather, the true scholar is one who takes their knowledge directly from their sustainer whenever they wish, without memorization or study." This is the divine knowledge alluded to in the verse, "And we taught him knowledge from us," Quran 18:65. Though all knowledge is from him, some comes through the mediation of human instruction, and that is not called divine knowledge. True divine knowledge is that which opens in the secret of the heart without any familiar external cause. These are the transmitted evidences, and were all the verses, narrations and traditions related to this gathered, they would be beyond enumeration. As for witnessing this through experiences, that too is beyond counting, evident in the lives of the companions, their successors, and those who followed. Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, may God be pleased with him, said to Aisha, may God be pleased with her, at the time of his death, they are only your two brothers and sisters, while his wife was pregnant. She later gave birth to a girl, for he had known before the birth that it would be a daughter. Umar, may God be pleased with him, during a sermon cried out, O Saria, the mountain, for it was unveiled to him that the enemy had overlooked Saria, and he warned him with a knowledge that reached him through miraculous means. Anas ibn Malik, may God be pleased with him, narrated that he entered upon Uthman, may God be pleased with him, after having encountered a woman on the way, and gazed at her with desire, admiring her beauty. Uthman said upon his entry, one of you enters upon me with the trace of adultery evident in his eyes. Do you not know that the adultery of the eyes is the gaze? Repent, or I shall punish you. Anas said, is there revelation after the Prophet? Uthman replied, no, but there is insight, proof, and true discernment. Abu Sa'id al-Kharaz narrated, I entered the sacred mosque and saw a poor man in tattered clothes. I said to myself, this man and his likes are a burden on people. He called out to me, saying, and God knows what is in your souls, so beware of him. Quran 2:235. I sought forgiveness in my heart, and he called out again, and it is he who accepts repentance from his servants. Quran 42:25. Then he disappeared, and I did not see him again. Zakaria ibn Dawood said, Abu al-Abbas ibn Masruq visited Abu al-Fadl al-Hashimi while he was ill. He had a family, but no apparent means of sustenance. When I stood to leave, I thought to myself, from where does this man eat? He shouted at me, O Abu al-Abbas, abandon this lowly thought, for God the Exalted has hidden kindnesses. Ahmad al-Nakib said, I visited al-Shibli, and he said, I am troubled, O Ahmad. I asked, what is the matter? He said, I was sitting when it crossed my mind that you are miserly. I said to myself, I am not miserly. But the thought returned, saying, indeed, you are miserly. So I resolved that whatever I received today I would give to the first poor person I met. He continued, before the thought was complete, a man entered with 50 dinars and said, use them for your needs. I took them, went out, and saw a blind poor man before a barber shaving his head. I approached and handed him the dinars. He said, give them to the barber. I said, their total is such and such. He replied, did we not tell you that you are miserly? So I gave them to the barber, who said, we agreed that when this poor man sat before us we would take no fee. So I threw the dinars into the Tigris and said, whoever exalts anyone, God humiliates them. Hamza ibn Abdullah al-Alawi said, I visited Abu al-Kha al-Nainani, intending to greet him and not eat in his house. When I left, he followed me with a tray of food and said, O young man, eat, for you have just abandoned your intention. Abu al-Khair al-Nainani was renowned for his miracles. Ibrahim al-Raqi said, I visited him to pay my respects. The time for the sunset prayer arrived, and he could barely recite the opening chapter upright. I thought to myself, my journey was wasted. After he finished the prayer, I went out to perform ablution, and a lion approached me. I returned to Abu al-Khair and said, a lion came toward me. He went out, shouted at it, and said, did I not tell you not to approach my guests? The lion retreated. I performed ablution, and when I returned he said, you are preoccupied with rectifying the outward and feared the lion, while we are preoccupied with rectifying the inward, so the lion feared us. What has been narrated of the insight of the masters and their knowledge of people's thoughts and consciences is beyond enumeration. Likewise, what is recounted of their encounters with Al-Qidr, peace be upon him, their questions to him, their hearing of unseen voices and various miracles, defies counting. Such narrations do not benefit the denier unless they witness it themselves. Whoever denies the principle denies the details. The conclusive proofs that none can refute are two. First, the wonders of true dreams which unveil the unseen. If this is possible in sleep, it is not impossible in wakefulness, for sleep differs from wakefulness only in the stillness of the senses and their disengagement from sensory matters. How many awake individuals are so absorbed in themselves that they neither hear nor see? Second, the Prophet's peace and blessings be upon him, foretelling of the unseen and future events as contained in the Quran. If this is possible for the Prophet, it is possible for others, for a prophet is one unveiled to the realities of things and occupied with guiding creation. It is not impossible for there to exist a person unveiled to realities without being tasked with guiding others. Such a one is not called a prophet, but a saint. Thus, whoever believes in the prophets and affirms the truth of valid dreams must inevitably acknowledge that the heart has two doors, one to the external, which is the senses, and one to the unseen from within the heart, which is the door of inspiration, intuition and revelation. If one affirms both, they cannot confine knowledge to learning and familiar means. Rather, it is possible that striving and struggle become a path to it. This suffices to illuminate the truth of what we have mentioned regarding the wondrous oscillation of the heart between the world of testimony and the realm of the unseen. As for why matters are unveiled in dreams through symbols requiring interpretation, and why angels appear to prophets and saints in varied forms, this too is among the mysteries of the heart's wonders, fitting only for the science of unveiling. Let us suffice with what we have mentioned, for it is enough to inspire striving and the pursuit of unveiling through it. One of the unveiled said, "An angel appeared to me and asked me to dictate to him something of my hidden remembrance concerning witnessing the divine unity. He said, 'We do not record for you an action, yet we love to ascend with a deed by which you draw near to God, the Exalted.' I said, 'Do you not record the obligatory acts?' He replied, 'Indeed we do.' I said, 'Then that suffices you.' This hints that the noble scribes do not perceive the secrets of the heart, only the outward actions. One of the knowers said, 'I asked one of the substitutes about a matter concerning the witnessing of certainty. He turned to his left and said, "What do you say? May God have mercy on you?" Then he turned to his right and said, "What do you say? May God have mercy on you?" Then he looked to his chest and said, "What do you say? May God have mercy on you?" Then he gave the most astonishing answer I had ever heard. I asked about his turning, and he said, "I had no ready answer to the question, so I asked the one on the left, and he said, 'I do not know.' Then I asked the one on the right, who is more knowledgeable, and he said, 'I do not know.' So I looked to my heart and asked it, and it spoke to me with what I answered you. Indeed, it was more knowledgeable than both. This seems to be the meaning of the prophet saying, 'Peace and blessings be upon him. In my community are those inspired, and Umar is among them.' It is narrated that God the Exalted says, 'Whichever servant I look upon and find their heart predominantly clinging to my remembrance, I take charge of their affairs, become their companion, their conversant, and their solace.'" Abu Sulaiman al-Darani, may God have mercy on him, said, "The heart is like a dome with closed doors around it. Whichever door is open to it, it acts through it. Thus, the opening of a door from the heart to the realm of the unseen and the highest assembly occurs through striving, piety, and turning away from worldly desires. For this reason, Umar, may God be pleased with him, wrote to the commanders of the armies, "Preserve what you hear from the obedient, for truthful matters are unveiled to them." One of the scholars said, "God's hand is upon the mouths of the wise. They speak only what God has prepared for them of truth." Another said, "If I wished, I could say that God unveils to the humble some of his secrets." Statement on the devil's dominion over the heart through whispers, the meaning of whispering, and the reason for its dominance know, O seeker of truth, that the heart is akin to a dome pitched upon the earth, with doors through which states and influences pour in from every side. It is also like a target set up for arrows to strike from all directions, or a mirror standing erect, upon which pass myriad images of diverse forms, one after another, never leaving it void. Or imagine it as a basin into which flow waters of varied hues from open rivers. The pathways through which these ever-renewing impressions reach the heart are twofold: from the outward, through the five senses, and from the inward, through imagination, desire, anger, and the innate dispositions woven into the fabric of human nature. When the senses perceive something, an imprint is left upon the heart. Likewise, when desire surges, perhaps due to excessive eating or a potent temperament, an effect stirs within the heart. Even when the senses are stilled, The imaginings lingering in the soul persist, flitting from one thought to another, and as imagination shifts, so too does the heart transition from one state to another. The essence of this discourse is that the heart is ever in flux, ever susceptible to influence from these causes. Among the most significant impressions upon the heart are the fleeting thoughts, by which I mean the ideas and remembrances that arise within it, whether as fresh perceptions or recalled knowledge. These are termed thoughts because they flash into awareness after the heart was heedless of them. These thoughts are the sparks that ignite the will, for intention, resolve and desire only emerge after a notion has crossed the mind. Thus, the origin of all actions lies in thoughts. A thought stirs longing, longing kindles resolve, resolve awakens intention, and intention sets the limbs into motion. Thoughts that incite longing are of two kinds: those that beckon toward evil, meaning that which brings harm in the ultimate reckoning, and those that call to good, meaning that which benefits in the hereafter. These are two distinct types of thoughts, necessitating distinct names. The commendable thought is called inspiration, while the blameworthy thought, which lures to evil, is named whispering. Know then that these thoughts are not without origin. Every occurrence must have a cause, and when causes differ, their effects bear witness to this divergence, as is the way of God's decree in ordering effects upon their causes. Just as when the walls of a house are illumined by the light of a fire while its ceiling darkens and blackens with smoke, you know that the cause of the light differs from the cause of the darkness. So too the lights and shadows of the heart stem from differing sources. The cause of a thought that calls to good is termed an angel, while the cause of a thought that lures to evil is called a devil. The subtle grace that prepares the heart to receive the inspiration of good is known as divine guidance, while that which renders it receptive to the devil's whispering is called misguidance and abandonment. For differing meanings require differing names. An angel is a creation of God whose purpose is to pour forth goodness, impart knowledge, unveil truth, promise good, and enjoin what is right, created and appointed by God for this very task. The devil, contrariwise, is a creation whose nature is the opposite, promising evil, commanding indecency, and instilling fear of poverty when one resolves upon good. Thus, whispering stands in opposition to inspiration, the devil against the angel, and divine guidance against abandonment. To this dichotomy points the verse of the Exalted, and of everything we have created pairs, Quran 51:49. For all that exists is paired in opposition save God alone, who is singular, without counterpart, the one true being, the creator of all pairs. The heart, then, is pulled between the devil and the angel. As the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, in the heart are two promptings, a prompting from the angel, promising good and affirming the truth. So whoever finds this, let him know it is from God, and let him praise God, and a prompting from the enemy, promising evil, denying the truth, and forbidding good. So whoever finds this, let him seek refuge in God from the accursed devil. Then he recited the verse, Satan threatens you with poverty and orders you to immorality. Quran 2:268. Al-Hasan said, they are but two stirrings that roam within the heart, a stirring from God and a stirring from the enemy. May God have mercy on a servant who pauses at his stirring. If it is from God, let him act upon it. If from the enemy, let him strive against it. For this tug-of-war between the two forces over the heart, the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, the heart of the believer is between two fingers of the Most Merciful. Yet God is far exalted above having fingers of flesh, blood and sinew divided into digits. Rather, the essence of the finger here is the swiftness of turning and the power to move and transform. You do not desire a finger for its form, but for its function in turning and shifting, just as you perform actions with your fingers. So too does God act as he wills by employing the angel and the devil, who are subservient to his power in turning hearts, as your fingers are subservient to you in turning objects. By its primal nature, the heart is equally disposed to receive the impressions of the angel and the devil, with neither holding sway over the other. The balance tips to one side or the other through following base desires and indulging in lusts, or by turning away from them and opposing them. If a person yields to the demands of anger and desire, the devil gains dominion through the medium of base inclination, and the heart becomes a nest and stronghold for the devil. For base desire is the devil's pasture and playground. But if one strives against lusts, refusing to let them rule, and emulates the virtues of the angels, peace be upon them, then the heart becomes a resting place and sanctuary for the angels. Since no heart is free from desire, anger, greed, ambition, or prolonged worldly hopes, among other human traits branching from a base inclination, it follows that no heart is free from the devils roaming within it through whispering. Hence, the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "There is not one among you but that he has a devil." They asked, "And you, O messenger of God?" He replied, "And I, save that God has aided me against him, so he has submitted and commands only good." This is so because the devil operates only through the medium of desire. Whoever is aided by God to master his desire so that it extends only where it ought and to the degree it ought, his desire no longer calls to evil, and the devil, cloaked in it, commands only good. Whenever the heart is overtaken by remembrance of worldly matters through the dictates of base desire, the devil finds a field to sow his whispers. But when the heart turns to the remembrance of God, the devil departs, his space constricts, and the angel draws near to inspire. The conflict between the armies of the angels and the devils in the battlefield of the heart persists until the heart opens fully to one of them, who then takes residence and gains firm footing, while the other's passing becomes but a fleeting theft. Yet most hearts have been breached by the armies of the devils, who have taken possession and filled them with whispers, urging preference for the fleeting over the eternal. The root of their dominance is the following of lusts and base desires. Such a heart cannot be opened anew save by purging it of the devil's strength, namely base desire and lust, and by filling it with the remembrance of God, which is the dwelling place of angelic influence. Jabir ibn Ubaidah al-Adawi said, "I complained to Al-Ala ibn Ziyad of the whispering I felt in my chest. He replied, 'It is like a house passed by thieves. If there is something within, they tamper with it. If not, they pass by and leave it untouched.'" By this he meant that a heart empty of base desire is not entered by the devil. Hence God, the Exalted, said, "Indeed, over my servants you have no authority." Quran 17:65. For whoever follows base desire is a slave to it, not a servant of God, and thus God has given the devil power over him. The Exalted also said, "Have you not seen the one who has taken as his God his own desire?" Quran 25:43, indicating that whoever makes base desire his deity and object of worship is a slave to it, not to God. Amr ibn al, as said to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, "O Messenger of God, the devil comes between me and my prayer and my recitation." He replied, "Go, that is a devil named Kanzab. When you sense him, seek refuge in God from him and spit to your left 3 times. Ammar said, "I did so, and God removed him from me." It is also narrated that there is a devil for ablution named al-Walahan, and one should seek refuge in God from him. Nothing erases the devil's whispering from the heart except remembrance of that which counters what he whispers. For when something else is recalled in the heart, the prior thought vanishes. Yet everything other than God and that which relates to him may also become a field for the devil's play. Only the remembrance of God secures one's flank, for it is known that the devil finds no foothold therein. Every affliction is treated by its opposite, and the antidote to all the devil's whispers is the remembrance of God through seeking refuge and disavowing self-reliance, as expressed in the words, "I seek refuge in God from the accursed devil, and there is no power and no strength save in God, the Most High, the Most Great." This, however, is attainable only by the pious, whose hearts are dominated by the remembrance of God. The devil circles around them only in moments of lapse, striking stealthily. God, the Exalted, said, "Indeed, those who fear God, when an impulse touches them from Satan, they remember him, and at once they have insight." Quran 7:201. Mujahid, commenting on the verse, "From the evil of the retreating whisperer," Quran 114:4, said, "He stretches over the heart, but when God is remembered, he retreats and contracts. When one is heedless, he expands over the heart." Thus, the struggle between the remembrance of God and the devil's whispering is like the alternation of light and darkness, of night and day. Due to their opposition, God said, "Satan has overcome them and made them forget the remembrance of God." Quran 58:19. Anas narrated that the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The devil places his snout upon the heart of the son of Adam. If he remembers God, he withdraws. If he forgets God, he swallows his heart." Ibn Wada reported a narration stating, "When a man reaches 40 years and does not repent, the devil wipes his face with his hand and says, 'By my father, a face that will never prosper.'" Just as desires are mingled with the flesh and blood of the son of Adam, so too is the devil's dominion pervasive in his flesh and blood, encircling the heart from all sides. Hence, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The devil courses through the son of Adam as blood flows. So constrict his pathways with hunger. For hunger breaks desire, and the devil's pathway is through desires. Due to the encompassing of desires around the heart from every side, God, the Exalted, recounted Iblis, saying, 'I will surely sit in wait for them on your straight path. Then I will come to them from before them, and from behind them, from their right and from their left.' Quran 7:16-17. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, also said, "The devil lies in wait for the son of Adam on his paths. He sat on the path of Islam and said, 'Will you embrace Islam and abandon your religion and the religion of your forefathers?' But he disobeyed him and embraced Islam. Then he sat on the path of migration and said, 'Will you migrate, leaving your land and sky?' But he disobeyed him and migrated. Then he sat on the path of jihad and said, 'Will you fight in jihad, risking your life and wealth? You will fight and be killed, your women will be married off and your wealth divided.' But he disobeyed him and fought in jihad. The messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, added, 'Whoever does this and dies, it is incumbent upon God to admit him to paradise.' Thus the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, elucidated the meaning of whispering as those thoughts that flash into the mind of the striver, such as the fear of being killed or of his women being married off, and other notions that deter him from jihad. These thoughts are evident, and thus whispering is known through observation. Every thought has a cause and requires a name to define it. The name of its cause is the devil. No human is free from it, though they differ in resisting or following it. Hence he, peace be upon him, said, 'There is not one among you but that he has a devil.' Through this insight, the meanings of whispering, inspiration, angel, devil, divine guidance, and abandonment become clear. Beyond this, some may ponder the essence of the devil, whether he is a subtle body or not, and if a body, how he enters the human form. But such inquiry is unnecessary in the science of practical conduct. It is akin to one whose garment harbours a snake, and who, needing to remove it and avert its harm, busies himself with studying its colour, shape, length and breadth, a pursuit of utter ignorance. The confrontation with thoughts that incite evil is known, and this points to a cause without doubt. It is also known that the one who calls to harmful evil in the future is an enemy. Thus the enemy is recognized, and one should occupy himself with striving against him. God, the Exalted, has declared his enmity in many places in his book, so that one may believe in it and guard against him. He said, "Indeed, Satan is an enemy to you, so take him as an enemy. He only invites his party to be among the companions of the blaze." Quran 35:6. "And did I not enjoin upon you, O children of Adam, that you not worship Satan? For indeed he is to you a clear enemy." Quran 36:60. Thus the servant should busy himself with repelling the enemy from his soul, not with questioning his origin, lineage or abode. However, he should inquire about the enemy's weapons to defend himself against them. The devil's weapons are base desire and lust, and this knowledge suffices for the wise. As for knowing the essence, attributes and true nature of the devil, or the reality of the angels, we seek refuge in God from such pursuits. These are the fields of the Gnostics, those deeply immersed in the sciences of divine unveiling, unnecessary in the science of practical conduct. Yet one must know that thoughts are divided into three. Those certainly calling to evil, unmistakably recognized as whispering. Those certainly calling to good, undoubtedly known as inspiration. And those in which one wavers, unsure whether they stem from the prompting of the angel or the devil. Among the devil's stratagems is presenting evil in the guise of good, and discerning this is subtle. Most servants perish through it, for the devil cannot openly call them to blatant evil, so he paints evil in the colours of good. He may say to a scholar by way of counsel, "Do you not see the people dead in ignorance, perishing in heedlessness, teetering on the edge of the fire? Have you no mercy for God's servants to save them from ruin with your advice and exhortation? God has blessed you with an insightful heart, an eloquent tongue, and a captivating manner. How can you be ungrateful for God's favour, exposing yourself to his wrath by remaining silent, neither spreading knowledge nor calling people to the straight path?" He persists in planting this in the scholar's mind, subtly drawing him until he engages in preaching to the masses. Then he urges him to adorn himself for them, to refine his words and display virtue, saying, "If you do not do this, your words will fall flat in their hearts, and they will not be guided to the truth." He continues to reinforce this until traces of ostentation, desire for acceptance, love of status and pride in numerous followers creep in, along with disdain for others. Thus he leads the poor soul to ruin through counsel, speaking while believing his intent is good, when in truth it is for status and acceptance, perishing thereby while imagining himself favoured in God's sight. Such are those of whom the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Indeed, God supports this religion through people who have no share in it, and indeed God supports this religion through the wicked man." It is narrated that Iblis, cursed be he, appeared to Jesus, son of Mary, peace be upon him, and said, "Say, there is no God but God." Jesus replied, "It is a word of truth, but I will not say it at your bidding." For even beneath apparent good the devil weaves deceptions. His deceptions of this kind are endless, through which scholars, worshippers, ascetics, the poor, the rich, and all classes of people who abhor overt evil and refuse to indulge in manifest sins are destroyed. We shall mention a collection of the devil's stratagems in the book on self-deception at the end of this section. And if time permits, we may compile a dedicated work titled The Deceptions of Iblis, for his deceptions have now spread across lands and servants, especially in doctrines and beliefs, until nothing remains of good deeds but their mere trace, all due to submission to the devil's deceptions and schemes. It is incumbent upon the servant to pause at every thought that crosses his mind, to discern whether it is a prompting from the angel or from the devil, and to examine it with the eye of insight, not with the inclination of nature. This insight is unveiled only through the light of piety and profound knowledge. As God, the Exalted, said, "Indeed, those who fear God, when an impulse touches them from Satan, they remember him, and at once they have insight." Quran 7:201. But whoever does not train himself in piety, his nature leans towards yielding to deception through following base desire, multiplying his errors and hastening his ruin without awareness. Of such, God the Exalted said, "And there appeared to them from God what they had not expected." Quran 39:47, meaning deeds they thought were virtues, but turned out to be vices. The most intricate branch of the science of conduct is recognizing the deceptions of the self and the stratagems of the devil, a duty binding upon every servant. Yet people have neglected it, preoccupying themselves with sciences that draw whispering to them, empowering the devil over them, and causing them to forget his enmity and the path to guard against him. Salvation from the abundance of whispering lies only in closing the doors of thoughts, which are the five senses, outwardly and inwardly, the desires and worldly attachments. Seclusion in a dark room closes the door of the senses, while detachment from family and wealth reduces the inward avenues of whispering. Yet even then, inward pathways remain through the imaginings that course through the heart, which can only be countered by occupying the heart with the remembrance of God. Still, the devil persists in contending with the heart, distracting it from God's remembrance, necessitating ceaseless striving against him. This striving has no end save death, for none escapes the devil while alive. One may grow strong enough to resist and repel his evil through striving, but never becomes free from the need to strive and defend so long as blood flows in his veins. As long as one lives, the devil's doors to the heart remain open and unclosed, through desire, anger, envy, greed, gluttony and other traits, as shall be elaborated. Whenever a door is open and the enemy vigilant, defence lies only in vigilance and striving. A man said to Al-Hasan, "O Abu Sa'id, does the devil sleep?" He smiled and replied, "If he slept, we would find rest." Thus there is no escape for the believer from him, though there is a path to repelling him and weakening his power. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The believer wears out his devil as one of you wears out his camel on a journey." Ibn Mas'ud said, "The devil of a believer is emaciated." Qais ibn al-Hajjaj said, "My devil said to me, I entered you as a mighty camel, and now I am like a sparrow." I asked, "Why is that?" He replied, "You have melted me with the remembrance of God." For the people of piety, closing the devil's doors and guarding them, meaning the outward doors and evident paths leading to manifest sins, is not unattainable. Their stumbling lies in his obscure paths, for they do not perceive them to guard against them, as we have hinted regarding the deception of scholars and preachers. The challenge is that the doors open to the heart for the devil are many, while the door of the angels is but one, and this single door is obscured among the multitude. The servant is like a traveller lost in a vast desert of countless, bewildering paths on a dark night, scarcely able to discern the way save with an insightful eye and the rising of a radiant sun. Here, the insightful eye is the heart purified by piety, and the radiant sun is abundant knowledge drawn from the Book of God and the Sunnah of his Messenger. Peace and blessings be upon him, which guides through his hidden paths. Otherwise, his paths are numerous and obscure. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, may God be pleased with him, said, "The Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, drew a line for us one day and said, 'This is the path of God.' Then he drew lines to its right and left and said, 'These are paths, and on each path is a devil calling to it.' Then he recited, 'And say, this is my path which is straight, so follow it and do not follow other ways.' Quran 6, 153. Thus he, peace be upon him, illustrated the multitude of his paths. We've given an example of an obscure path by which he deceives scholars and worshippers who master their desires and abstain from manifest sins. Now let us offer an example of his evident path, which is not hidden save that a human may be compelled to tread it. It is narrated from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that he said, "There was a monk among the children of Israel. The devil took a young girl, strangled her, and cast into the hearts of her family that her cure lay with the monk. They brought her to him, but he refused to take her. They persisted until he accepted her to treat her. While she was with him, the devil came and embellished in his mind the idea of approaching her, persisting until he lay with her, and she conceived. Then the devil whispered to him, 'Now you will be disgraced when her family comes. Kill her, and if they ask, say she died.' So he killed her and buried her. Then the devil came to her family, whispered to them, and cast into their hearts that he had made her pregnant, killed her and buried her. They came to him and asked about her. He said she died. They seized him to kill him for her. The devil came to him and said, 'I am the one who strangled her, and I cast this into their hearts. Obey me, and I will save you from them.' He asked, 'How?' The devil replied, 'Prostrate to me twice.' So he prostrated twice. Then the devil said, 'I am free of you.' This is the one about whom God the Exalted said, 'They are like the example of Satan when he says to man, disbelieve. But when he disbelieves, he says, indeed, I am disassociated from you.' Quran 59:16. Behold now his stratagems, and how he compelled the monk to commit these grave sins, all stemming from obeying him in accepting the girl for treatment, a seemingly trivial matter. One may even deem it a good deed and a virtue, finding it pleasing in his heart through subtle desire, and thus embarks upon it as if seeking good. Yet the matter spirals beyond his control, one step dragging to the next until he finds no escape. We seek refuge in God from neglecting the beginnings of affairs. To this alludes the saying of the prophet, "Peace and blessings be upon him. Whoever lingers near the forbidden zone is on the verge of falling into it." A detailed exposition on the entrances of Satan into the heart. Know, O seeker of truth, that the heart is akin to a fortified citadel, and Satan is an enemy ever eager to breach its walls, to possess and dominate it. The safeguarding of this citadel from such a foe is possible only through vigilant guardianship of its gates, its entryways, and the breaches in its defences. Yet one cannot guard these portals without first knowing where they lie. Thus, protecting the heart from the whispers of Satan becomes an obligatory duty, a personal responsibility upon every accountable soul. And whatever is essential to fulfill an obligation itself becomes obligatory. The repelling of Satan cannot be achieved without understanding his points of ingress. Hence, knowing these entrances becomes a sacred necessity. The entryways of Satan, his gates to the heart, are the very traits and characteristics of the human being. They are numerous, yet we shall point to the grandest of these portals, those wide paths that accommodate the vast armies of Satan without constraint. Among his mightiest gates are anger and desire. Anger is the devourer of intellect. When the soldiers of reason are weakened, the legions of Satan storm in. Whenever a person succumbs to rage, Satan toys with them as a child plays with a ball. It is narrated that Moses, peace be upon him, once encountered Iblis, who said to him, "O Moses, you are the one whom God chose for his message and spoke to directly. I too am a creation of God, but I have sinned and wish to repent. Intercede for me with my sustainer, that he may accept my repentance." Moses replied, "Indeed I shall." When Moses ascended the mountain and conversed with his sustainer, the Exalted, and was about to descend, God said to him, "Fulfill the trust." Moses replied, "O sustainer, your servant Iblis seeks your forgiveness." God revealed to Moses, "O Moses, I have granted your request. Command him to prostrate at the grave of Adam, and then I shall accept his repentance." When Moses met Iblis and conveyed this to him, saying, "Your request is fulfilled. You are commanded to prostrate at Adam's grave for your repentance to be accepted." Iblis became enraged and arrogant, declaring, "I did not prostrate to him when he was alive. Shall I do so now that he is dead?" Then he said to Moses, "O Moses, you have a right over me for interceding on my behalf with your sustainer. Remember me in 3 states, lest I destroy you in them. Remember me when you are angry, for in that moment my spirit is in your heart, my eye in your eye, and I flow through you as blood flows through veins. Remember me when you are angry, for when a person rages, I blow into their nostrils, and they know not what they do. Remember me when you face battle, for I come to the son of Adam at that moment, reminding him of his wife, his children, and his family, until he turns away in fear. And beware of sitting with a woman who is not a lawful kin, for I am her messenger to you and your messenger to her, persisting until I seduce you through her and her through you." Thus he pointed to desire, anger, and greed. Fleeing from battle is born of greed for this world, and his refusal to prostrate to Adam, even in death, stems from envy, the greatest of his entryways. It is said that one of the righteous predecessors asked Iblis, "Show me how you overpower the son of Adam." He replied, "I seize him at the moment of anger and at the moment of desire." It is also narrated that Iblis appeared to a monk, and the monk asked, "Which of the traits of the sons of Adam aids you most?" Iblis answered, "Rashness. When a servant is impulsive, we turn him over as children turn a ball." And it is said that Satan declares, "How can the son of Adam overcome me? When he is content, I come until I reside in his heart. When he is angry, I soar until I perch in his mind." Among his grand entrances are envy and greed. Whenever a servant is consumed by greed for all things, it blinds and deafens him. As the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Your love for a thing blinds and deafens." The light of insight is what discerns Satan's entryways, but when the veil of envy and greed obscures the vision, Satan finds his opportunity. He beautifies for the greedy every means to attain their desires, even if it be vile and shameful. It is narrated that when Noah, peace be upon him, boarded the ark and took with him pairs of every species as God commanded, he saw an old man on the ark whom he did not recognize. Noah asked, "What brought you here?" The old man replied, "I entered to afflict the hearts of your companions, so their hearts may be with me, while their bodies are with you." Noah said, "Leave, O enemy of God, for you are accursed." Iblis responded, "There are 5 things with which I destroy people. I will inform you of 3 and withhold 2. God revealed to Noah, "You have no need of the 3. Let him tell you of the 2. And Noah asked, "What are the 2? Iblis replied, "They are the 2 that never fail me, with which I destroy people, greed and envy. Through envy I was cursed and made a rejected devil. As for greed, Adam was permitted all of paradise except 1 tree, yet through greed I achieved my aim with him. Another of his grand portals is overeating, even of lawful and pure sustenance, for fullness strengthens desires, and desires are Satan's weapons. It is narrated that Iblis appeared to John, son of Zechariah, peace be upon them, and John saw upon him hooks of every kind. He asked, "O Iblis, what are these hooks?" Iblis replied, "These are the desires with which I ensnare the son of Adam." John asked, "Is there anything of mine among them?" Iblis answered, "Sometimes you overeat, and we burden you, making prayer and remembrance heavy upon you." John asked, "Is there more?" Iblis said, "No." John vowed, "By God, I shall never fill my stomach with food again." Iblis countered, "By God, I shall never again offer sincere advice to a Muslim." It is said that overeating carries 6 blameworthy traits. First, it drives the fear of God from the heart. Second, it removes compassion for creation from the heart, as one assumes all are sated like himself. Third, it makes obedience burdensome. Fourth, when one hears words of wisdom, they find no tenderness in their heart. Fifth, when they speak words of admonition and wisdom, they fail to touch the hearts of others. And sixth, it stirs diseases within. Among his entrances is the love of adornment in furniture, clothing, and homes. When Satan sees this dominating a person's heart, he nests and breeds within it, ceaselessly calling them to embellish their home, decorate its ceilings and walls, expand its structures, and adorn themselves with fine garments and mounts. He enslaves them to these pursuits throughout their life. Once he ensnares them in this, he need not return, for each indulgence drags them to another, leading them from one thing to the next until their appointed time arrives, and they die in the path of Satan, following their whims, fearing an evil end in disbelief. May God protect us from such a fate. Another of his mighty gates is avarice toward people, for when greed overtakes the heart, Satan incessantly beautifies pretense and ostentation before those one hopes to gain from through various forms of hypocrisy and deception. The object of greed becomes as if it were their deity, and they ponder endlessly on ways to ingratiate and endear themselves, entering every possible door to achieve their aim. At the least, they flatter with undeserved praise and compromise by abandoning the enjoining of good and forbidding of evil. Another grand entrance is haste and the neglect of deliberation in matters. The prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Haste is from Satan and patience is from God." God the Exalted said, "Man was created of haste," Quran 21:37, and "Man is ever hasty," Quran 17:11, and to his prophet, "And do not hasten with the Quran before its revelation is completed to you," Quran 20:114. This is because actions must follow insight and understanding, which require contemplation and patience, while haste obstructs this. In moments of impulsiveness, Satan promotes his evil to a person in ways they do not perceive. Another of his grand portals is wealth, dirhams, dinars, and all forms of possessions, whether goods, livestock, or property. Anything beyond the measure of sustenance and need becomes a stronghold for Satan. One who possesses only their basic needs has a heart unburdened. But if they find, for instance, 100 dinars on the road, desires awaken in their heart, each requiring another 100 dinars. What they found does not suffice. They need 900 more to buy a house to furnish, a servant, household goods, and luxurious clothing. Each acquisition demands another to match it, an endless cycle leading to a bottomless abyss whose end is the depth of hell, with no conclusion but that. Another mighty gate is stinginess and fear of poverty, which prevent giving and charity, driving one to hoard and amass, inviting the painful torment promised to those who accumulate, as declared in the noble Quran. It is said that Satan proclaims, "No son of Adam has ever overpowered me, and none shall, for I command him to take wealth unjustly, spend it unjustly, and withhold it from its rightful place." It is also said that Satan has no weapon like the fear of poverty. When one accepts this, they engage in falsehood, withhold the truth, speak according to whims, and harbour ill thoughts of their sustainer. Among his entrances is the fanaticism for sects and opinions, harbouring resentment toward adversaries, and looking upon them with disdain and contempt, a path that destroys both the righteous and the wicked alike. Criticizing others and preoccupying oneself with their faults is a trait ingrained in human nature, a beastly characteristic. When Satan deludes one into believing this is truth and it aligns with their disposition, its sweetness overwhelms their heart, and they devote all their energy to it, rejoicing and thinking they are striving for religion, while in reality they are following the devils. Another entrance is distracting the common folk, those unversed in knowledge, into pondering the essence and attributes of God and matters beyond the reach of their intellect, leading them to doubt the foundation of faith, or imagine about God what he is far exalted above, rendering them disbelievers or innovators, yet they rejoice in what has settled in their breast, deeming it knowledge and insight, attributing it to their cleverness and superior intellect. The most foolish among people are those most convinced of their own intellect, while the most steadfast in reason are those most distrustful of themselves and most frequent in seeking counsel from the learned. Another of his grand portals is harbouring ill thoughts of fellow Muslims. God the Exalted said, "O you who have believed, avoid much negative assumption. Indeed, some assumption is sin." Quran 49:12. When one judges another based on mere suspicion, Satan incites them to speak ill of them through backbiting, leading to their ruin, or to neglect their rights, slacken in honouring them, view them with contempt, and deem themselves superior, all of which are destructive traits. For this reason, the Sharia prohibits exposure to situations of suspicion, as the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Avoid places of suspicion." These are but some of the entrances of Satan into the heart. Were I to enumerate them all, I could not encompass them. What has been mentioned suffices to alert one to the rest, for there is no blameworthy trait in a human being but that it serves as a weapon for Satan and a gateway for his ingress. If you ask, what is the remedy to repel Satan? Is it sufficient to remember God and say, there is no power and no strength except with God? Know that the treatment of the heart lies in sealing these entrances by purifying the heart of these blameworthy traits, a matter too vast to detail here. Our purpose in this section of the book is to elucidate the remedy for destructive traits, each of which requires a separate treatise, as will be explained later. Indeed, if the roots of these traits are severed from the heart, Satan's influence will be reduced to fleeting thoughts and passing whispers without a permanent abode. What prevents even these fleeting incursions is the remembrance of God, for true remembrance cannot take root in the heart except after it is fortified with piety and cleansed of blameworthy traits. Otherwise, remembrance becomes mere self-talk, lacking authority over the heart, and thus incapable of repelling Satan's dominion. Hence, God the Exalted specified, "Indeed, those who fear God, when an impulse touches them from Satan, they remember him, and at once they have insight." Quran 7:201, singling out the pious. Satan is like a hungry dog approaching you. If you have no bread or meat in your hand, it retreats at your mere command to get away. A simple sound repels it. But if you hold meat and it is ravenous, it lunges for it, undeterred by mere words. So too is the heart empty of Satan's sustenance. It repels him with mere remembrance. But when desire dominates the heart, it pushes true remembrance to the peripheries, unable to penetrate its core. Thus, Satan settles in the heart's innermost sanctum. As for the hearts of the pious, free of whims and blameworthy traits, Satan merely passes by them, not due to desires, but due to their momentary lapse in remembrance. When they return to remembrance, Satan withdraws. The proof of this lies in God's command, "So seek refuge in God from Satan the accursed," Quran 16:98, and in the numerous narrations and verses concerning remembrance. It was narrated by Abu Huraira that the devil of a believer and the devil of an unbeliever once crossed paths. The devil of the unbeliever appeared plump, well-fed, and clothed in finery, while the devil of the believer was gaunt, dishevelled, dusty, and bare. The devil of the unbeliever, beholding his counterpart's wretched state, inquired, "What ails thee that thou art so emaciated?" The other replied, "I am bound to a man who, when he eats, invokes the name of God, and thus I remain hungry. When he drinks, he invokes the name of God, and I remain thirsty. When he dons his attire, he invokes the name of God, and I remain naked. And when he anoints himself, he invokes the name of God, and I remain unkempt." The devil of the unbeliever retorted, "But I am with a man who does none of these things, and so I partake in his food, his drink, and his raiment." And it is told that Muhammad ibn Wasi would supplicate each morning after the dawn prayer, saying, "O God, thou hast set upon us an enemy keen-sighted to our flaws, who sees us and his tribe from where we see them not. O God, render him hopeless of us as thou hast rendered him hopeless of thy mercy. Make him despair of us as thou hast made him despair of thy forgiveness, and distance us from him as thou hast distanced him from thy mercy. Verily thou art over all things powerful." And lo, one day Iblis himself appeared to him on the path to the mosque, and said, "O Ibn Wasi, dost thou know me?" He replied, "And who art thou?" Iblis answered, "I am Iblis." Ibn Wasi asked, "What seekest thou?" Iblis said, "I desire that thou teach not this invocation of refuge to anyone, and I shall not trouble thee." Ibn Wasi declared, "By God, I shall not withhold it from whoever seeks it, so do as thou wilt." From Abd ar-Rahman ibn Abi Layla, it is related that a devil once approached the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, bearing a torch of fire while he prayed, standing before him. The Prophet recited and sought refuge, yet the devil did not depart. Then came Gabriel, peace be upon him, who said, "Say, I seek refuge in the perfect words of God, which neither the righteous nor the wicked can transgress, from the evil of what enters the earth and what emerges from it, what descends from the heavens and what ascends therein, from the trials of night and day, and from the visitations of night and day, save a visitor who comes with good, O most merciful." And when he uttered these words, the devil's torch was extinguished, and he fell upon his face. Al-Hasan narrated that Gabriel came to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and said, "A mighty demon of the jinn seeks to harm thee. When thou retirest to thy bed, recite the verse of the throne, Ayat al-Kursi, Quran 2, 255. And the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "A devil came to me and wrestled with me, then wrestled again, and I seized him by the throat. By him who sent me with the truth, I did not release him until I felt the coolness of his tongue's saliva upon my hand. Were it not for the supplication of my brother Solomon, peace be upon him, he would have been left prostrate in the mosque." He also said, "Never did Umar tread a path, but that the devil took a different way." This is so because their hearts were purified from the grazing fields of Satan and his strength, which are the desires of the world. Thus to hope that the devil might be repelled from thee by mere remembrance, as he was from Umar, may God be pleased with him, is a vain hope, akin to one who drinks medicine without first cleansing the stomach of heavy foods, expecting it to benefit as it does one who has prepared his body. Remembrance is the remedy, and piety is the preparation, the emptying of the heart from worldly desires. When remembrance descends upon a heart void of all but God, the devil flees as illness flees when medicine enters an empty stomach. God, the Exalted, has said, "Verily in this is a reminder for whoever has a heart." Quran 50:37. And he said, "It is decreed for him that whoever takes him as an ally, he will lead him astray and guide him to the torment of the blaze." Quran 22:4. Whoever aids the devil through his deeds becomes his ally, even if he remembers God with his tongue. Though the narrations state broadly that remembrance expels the devil, understand that most generalities in the sacred law are bound by conditions expounded by the scholars of faith. Look into thyself, for hearing is not like seeing. Reflect that the pinnacle of thy remembrance and worship is prayer. So observe thy heart during prayer, how the devil tugs it toward the marketplaces, the reckonings of men, and the disputes of the obstinate. How he leads thee through the valleys and perils of this world, until thou recallest in prayer what thou hadst forgotten of worldly trifles. The devil crowds thy heart most when thou prayest. Prayer is the touchstone of hearts, revealing their virtues and vices. Prayer is not accepted from hearts laden with worldly desires, and thus the devil is not repelled from thee. Nay, his whispers may even intensify, as medicine taken without preparation may worsen the harm. If thou seekest deliverance from the devil, begin with the shield of piety, then follow it with the remedy of remembrance, and he shall flee from thee as he fled from Umar. May God be pleased with him. Wahb ibn Munabbih said, "Fear God, and do not curse the devil openly while thou art his friend in secret," meaning thou obeyest him. And some have said, "How strange it is for one to disobey the benefactor after knowing his kindness, and to obey the accursed after knowing his tyranny." As God the Exalted has said, "Call upon me, I will respond to you." Quran 40:60. Yet thou callest and receivest no answer, so too thou rememberest God, yet the devil flees not, for the conditions of remembrance and supplication are unmet. It was said to Ibrahim ibn Adham, "Why do we call and receive no answer, when God has said, 'Call upon me, I will respond to you'?" Quran 40:60. He replied, "Because your hearts are dead." They asked, "What has killed them?" He said, 8 traits. You have known God's right, but have not fulfilled it. You have read the Quran, but have not acted upon its limits. You have said, "We love the messenger of God. Peace and blessings be upon him," but have not followed his way. You have said, "We fear death," but have not prepared for it. God has said, "Indeed, Satan is an enemy to you, so take him as an enemy." Quran 35:6. Yet you have allied with him in disobedience. You have said, "We fear the fire," yet you have exhausted your bodies in its pursuit. You have said, "We love paradise," yet you have not worked for it. And when you rise from your beds, you cast your own faults behind you and lay out the faults of others before you, thus angering your sustainer. How then shall he answer you? If thou askest whether the instigator of diverse sins is a single devil or many devils, know that thou needest not concern thyself with this in thy striving. Focus on repelling the enemy, and ask not of his form or nature. Yet through the light of insight and the testimonies of narrations, it becomes clear that they are legions arrayed, and for each type of sin there is a devil assigned to it, summoning to its path. The path of insight is long to expound, but suffice it to say that the diversity of effects points to the diversity of causes, as we see in the light of fire and the darkness of smoke. As for the narrations, Mujahid said that Iblis has 5 offspring, each tasked with a specific affair. Tabar, who is the master of calamities, commanding lamentation, tearing of garments, striking of cheeks, and the cries of ignorance. Al-Awar, who incites to fornication and adorns it. Mabsut, who is the lord of lies. Dasim, who enters with a man into his home, casting faults upon his family and inciting anger against them. And Zalnabur, who presides over the marketplace, ensuring grievances persist. The devil of prayer is named Kinzab, and the devil of ablution is called Al-Walahan. Many narrations have come concerning this. Just as the devils are numerous, so too are the angels. Abu Umama al-Bahili narrated that the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Assigned to each believer are 160 angels who protect him from what is not decreed for him. Among them 7 angels guard his sight, warding off harm as flies are warded from a bowl of honey on a summer's day. Were you to see them, you would behold them on every plain and mountain, each with hands outstretched and mouths agape. If a servant were left to himself for the blink of an eye, the devils would snatch him away." Abu ad-Darda, may God be pleased with him, narrated that the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "God created the jinn in 3 kinds, one kind as serpents, scorpions, and creeping things of the earth, another as the wind in the air, and a third upon whom reward and punishment are incumbent. And God created mankind in 3 kinds, one kind like beasts, as God said, they have hearts, with which they do not understand, eyes with which they do not see, and ears with which they do not hear. Those are like livestock, rather they are more astray. Quran 7, 179. Another kind whose bodies are of the children of Adam, but whose spirits are of the devils. And a third kind who will be in the shade of God on the day of resurrection, a day when there is no shade but his. Wahib ibn al-Ward related that Iblis appeared to Yahya ibn Zakaria, peace be upon them, and said, "I wish to advise thee." Yahya replied, "I have no need of thy counsel, but tell me of the children of Adam." Iblis said, "They are of three kinds to us. The first and most difficult for us, we approach to tempt until we gain hold over them, but they flee to repentance and seeking forgiveness, undoing all we had achieved. We return to them, and they return to repentance. Neither do we despair of them, nor do we attain what we desire, and thus we are in toil with them. The second kind are as a ball in the hands of your children. We turn them as we please, for they have surrendered themselves to us. The third kind are like thee, protected, and we have no power over them. If thou askest how the devil appears to some and not to others, and whether the form seen is his true form or a mere representation, know that both the angel and the devil possess true forms that cannot be perceived save through the lights of prophethood. The prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, saw Gabriel in his true form only twice. Yet often the devil reveals himself to the masters of unveiled hearts as a semblance of his essence, seen with the eye and heard with the ear in wakefulness, as it occurs in dreams to the righteous. The heart, with its face turned to the unseen realm, receives impressions that manifest in the realm of the visible. For the heart has two aspects, one facing the world of mystery, the gateway of inspiration and revelation, and the other facing the world of the seen. Thus, what appears in the visible aspect is but an image. For the world of the seen is a realm of illusions, yet the image born of the unseen's radiance upon the heart's inner sanctum mirrors the true essence. The devil appears as a dog, a frog, or a swine, reflecting his vile nature, while the angel appears in beauty, embodying purity. These forms are symbols of their truths, as in dreams where a monkey or pig signifies a vile person, and a sheep a pure heart. These are among the wonders of the heart's mysteries, beyond the scope of mere transaction, yet they affirm that the devil and the angel may unveil themselves to the masters of hearts, often through symbolic forms that mirror their essence, seen truly by the eye of the beholder though hidden from others. Clarification on what the servant is held accountable for, regarding the whispers, thoughts, intentions and aims of the heart, and what is forgiven and not held against him. Know that this matter is subtle and complex, with verses and narrations appearing contradictory, their reconciliation clear only to the discerning scholars of sacred law. It is narrated from the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that he said, "My community is forgiven for what their souls whisper to them, so long as they neither speak it nor act upon it." Abu Huraira narrated that the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "God, the Exalted, says to the recording angels, if my servant intends an evil deed, do not write it against him. If he performs it, write it as one evil deed. If he intends a good deed but does not perform it, write it as one good deed. If he performs it, write it as tenfold or more." This is evidence of forgiveness for the heart's intentions of evil. Yet there are indications of accountability, as God, the Exalted, has said, "Whether you reveal what is in your souls or conceal it, God will call you to account for it. Then he forgives whom he wills and punishes whom he wills." Quran 2, 284. And he said, "Do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, all those will be questioned." Quran 1736. Indicating that the heart's work is as accountable as that of hearing and sight. He also said, "Do not conceal testimony, for whoever conceals it, his heart is sinful." Quran 2, 283. And God does not hold you accountable for idle oaths, but he holds you accountable for what your hearts have earned. Quran 2, 225. The truth in this matter cannot be grasped without a detailed understanding of the heart's workings from the inception of a thought to its manifestation in action. We say, the first thing to enter the heart is a fleeting thought, such as the image of a woman behind one's back on a path where turning would reveal her. The second is the stirring of desire to look, a movement of natural inclination born of the first thought, which we call the inclination of nature. While the first is termed the soul's whisper, the third is the heart's judgment that this act should be done, that one ought to look, for even if nature inclines, the resolve and intention do not arise unless deterrents are absent. Such deterrents might be shame or fear, and their absence may come through contemplation, which is in any case a judgment of reason, termed belief or conviction, following the thought and inclination. The fourth is the firm resolve to turn and look, a determined intention, which we call intent or purpose. This intent may begin weakly, but if the heart lingers on the initial thought, wrestling long with the soul, the intent strengthens into a resolute will. Even after resolve, one might regret and abandon the act, or be distracted and not perform it, or be hindered by an obstacle, rendering the act impossible. Thus there are four states of the heart before action: the thought, which is the soul's whisper, the inclination, the conviction, and the intent. We say, as for the thought, there is no accountability for it is beyond choice. Likewise, the inclination and stirring of desire are beyond choice, and thus not accountable, as meant by the prophet's saying, peace and blessings be upon him, my community is forgiven for what their souls whisper to them. The soul's whisper refers to fleeting thoughts without resolve to act. As for intent and resolve, they are not mere whispers of the soul, but purposeful determinations. The third state, conviction or the heart's judgment that an act should be done, wavers between necessity and choice, and accountability depends on whether it is chosen or compelled. The fourth, intent to act, incurs accountability unless the act is abandoned out of fear of God or regret, in which case a good deed is recorded, for the intent was evil, but the struggle against it is good. Intent aligned with nature indicates complete heedlessness of God, while resisting it through struggle against nature requires immense strength. Thus, striving against nature for God's sake is a greater act, and a good deed is recorded. If the act is prevented by an obstacle or abandoned for reasons other than fear of God, an evil deed is recorded, for the intent was a chosen act of the heart. This detailed distinction is supported by narrations, as the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, the angels said, O Sustainer, this servant of thine intends an evil deed, and thou art most aware of him. God said, watch him. If he performs it, write it as one evil deed. If he abandons it, write it as a good deed, for he has abandoned it for my sake. If one resolves upon a grave sin but is prevented by circumstance or forgetfulness, how can a good deed be recorded? The prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, people will be gathered according to their intentions. We know that if one resolves at night to kill a Muslim or commit fornication by morning but dies that night, he dies in persistence and will be gathered according to his intention. A decisive proof is the narration from the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. If two Muslims meet with their swords, the killer and the killed are both in the fire. It was asked, O Messenger of God, this is the killer, but what of the killed? He replied, because he intended to kill his companion. This is explicit that mere intention renders one deserving of the fire, even if killed unjustly. How then can it be thought that God does not hold accountable for intention and resolve? Every intent under the servant's choice incurs accountability unless atoned by a good deed, and retracting resolve through regret is a good deed, thus recorded as such. But failure due to hindrance is not a good deed. As for fleeting thoughts, whispers of the soul, and stirrings of desire, they are beyond choice, and accountability for them would be an unbearable burden. When the verse descended, whether you reveal what is in your souls or conceal it, God will call you to account for it. Quran 2:284. Some companions came to the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, saying, we have been burdened with what we cannot bear. One of us may have thoughts he dislikes to harbour in his heart, yet he is held accountable for them. The Prophet said, perhaps you say, as the Jews said, we hear and disobey. Say, "We hear and obey." They said, "We hear and obey." Then God granted relief after a year with the verse, "God does not burden a soul beyond its capacity." Quran 2, 286, clarifying that what is beyond capacity in the heart's workings is not held against one. This unveils the confusion in this matter. Whoever assumes all that passes through the heart is mere soul's whisper without distinguishing these stages will err. How can one not be held accountable for the heart's works of pride, arrogance, hypocrisy, envy, and all vile traits? God has said, "The hearing, the sight, and the heart, all those will be questioned." Quran 1736, meaning what falls under choice. If the eye falls upon the forbidden without choice, there is no accountability. But if a second glance follows by choice, accountability ensues. So too with the heart's thoughts. Indeed, the heart is foremost in accountability, for it is the root. The messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Piety is here," pointing to the heart. God, the Exalted, said, "Their meat and blood do not reach God, but your piety reaches him." Quran 22:37. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Sin is what unsettles the heart, and righteousness is what brings peace to the heart, even if the people give fatwas against it." Thus, the heart's judgment is paramount, for it is the seat of faith and the arbiter of deeds. In the realm of the heart's decrees and the soul's silent murmurs, we proclaim that if the heart, acting as a mufti, rules in favour of a matter and errs therein, it shall still be rewarded for its intent. Indeed, if a person believes they have purified themselves and proceeds to pray only to later realize they did not perform ablution, they shall yet receive the reward for their action. But if they remember their lapse and abandon the prayer, they shall bear the burden of reproach. Likewise, if a man finds a woman upon his bed and, mistaking her for his wife, lies with her, he commits no sin if she proves to be a stranger. Yet if he assumes her to be a stranger and still lies with her, only to discover she is his wife, he has transgressed. All such matters are judged by the heart's intent, not by the mere actions of the limbs. On whether obsessive whispers can be entirely ceased by remembrance of God, know, O seeker of truth, that the scholars who vigilantly observe the heart gazing into its attributes and marvels have diverged on this question into 5 distinct schools of thought. One faction asserts that obsessive whispers, waswasa, are silenced by the remembrance of God, the Exalted, for the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, declared that when God is remembered, the whisperer retreats into silence, as Khans signifies a retreat or cessation. Another group contends that the root of such whispers never vanishes entirely, yet they flow through the heart without leaving a mark. For a heart wholly immersed in remembrance becomes shielded from their influence. Much like one preoccupied with a pressing concern may hear words, yet comprehend nothing, though the sound passes through their ears. A third faction maintains that neither the whispers nor their effects vanish, but their dominance over the heart is diminished, rendering them feeble and distant. A fourth group believes that whispers vanish in a fleeting moment of remembrance, just as remembrance may fade in an instant, the two alternating in rapid succession, so close in time that they seem to coexist, akin to a sphere with scattered dots that, when spun swiftly, appear as a continuous line. They argue this based on the concept of Khans, observing that whispers persist even during remembrance and find no other explanation for this phenomenon. Finally, a fifth faction holds that whispers and remembrance coexist perpetually within the heart, flowing side by side without interruption, just as a person may behold 2 sights with their eyes simultaneously. So too can the heart harbour 2 streams of thought. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said that every servant has 4 eyes, 2 in their head to perceive the affairs of this world, and 2 in their heart to discern the matters of their faith. This view was espoused by al-Muhasibi, and we hold that all these perspectives are valid, yet each falls short of encompassing the full spectrum of obsessive whispers. Each scholar has gazed upon a single facet of this intricate phenomenon and spoken thereof. Whispers manifest in diverse forms. The first arises from the devil's deception through truth, where he cloaks falsehood in the garb of righteousness, whispering to a person, "Abandon indulgence in pleasures, for life is long, and enduring the restraint of desires over a lifetime is a torment unbearable." At such a moment, if the servant remembers the immense right of God, the exalted, and the grandeur of his reward and punishment, saying to themselves, "Endurance against desires is arduous, yet endurance in the fire is far graver, and one of the two must be borne." Then, upon recalling God's promise and warning, renewing their faith and certainty, the devil retreats and flees. He cannot claim that the fire is lighter than abstaining from sin, nor can he assert that disobedience does not lead to hell, for the servant's faith in the book of God repels such lies, and thus the whisper is severed. Similarly, the devil may incite self-admiration for one's deeds, whispering, "Who knows God as you do, or worships him as you worship? How great is your station before God?" But if the servant reflects that their knowledge, heart and limbs, through which they act and know, are all creations of God, they wonder, from whence comes this pride? And the devil withdraws, unable to claim that these are not from God, for the servant's faith and understanding repel him. This type of whisper is wholly severed for those enlightened by the light of faith and divine recognition. The second form of whisper stirs desires and incites their fervour, dividing into what the servant knows with certainty to be a sin and what they merely suspect to be so. If they know it as sin with certainty, the devil retreats from igniting a desire that could sway them, though he may not cease his provocation entirely. If it is merely suspected, the whisper may persist with influence, requiring strenuous effort to repel it. Thus the whisper exists, but is countered, not dominant. The third type manifests as mere fleeting thoughts, recalling worldly concerns or pondering matters outside prayer. When one turns to remembrance, it may seem that the whisper recedes momentarily, only to return, alternating with remembrance. Or both may coexist, the heart grasping the meaning of recitation while also entertaining stray thoughts, as if dwelling in two realms within the heart. It is exceedingly rare for such whispers to be entirely banished, so that no thought intrudes, yet it is not impossible. For the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said that whoever prays 2 cycles without their soul wandering to worldly affairs shall have their past sins forgiven. Were this not conceivable, he would not have mentioned it. Yet such a state is rare, attainable only by a heart consumed by divine love, akin to one overwhelmed by obsession, as we observe in those whose hearts are wholly occupied by enmity or love, thinking solely of their foe or beloved during prayer, oblivious to all else. If this is possible in fear of an enemy or longing for wealth and status, how much more so in fear of the fire and yearning for paradise? Yet it remains rare due to the frailty of faith in God and the hereafter. When you contemplate these categories and types of whispers, you realize that each scholarly view holds truth in its specific context. In essence, liberation from the devil in a fleeting moment or hour is not far-fetched, but complete freedom over a lifetime is exceedingly distant, nigh impossible in existence. Even the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, was not spared such whispers. For it is narrated that he gazed at a mark on his garment during prayer, and upon finishing cast it aside, saying it distracted him from prayer, and ordered it to be taken to Abu Jam in exchange for a simpler cloak. Similarly, while wearing a gold ring and standing on the pulpit, he looked at it, then cast it away, saying, "A glance at it and a glance at you." This was due to the devil's whisper, stirring delight in gazing at the gold ring or the garment's mark, before gold was forbidden, after which he discarded it. Thus, whispers of worldly allurements and their distractions cease only through renunciation and detachment. So long as one possesses anything beyond their need, even a single coin, the devil will not leave them in prayer without whispering thoughts of that coin, how to guard it, how to spend it, how to conceal it so none may know, or how to display it for pride. Such are the endless whispers. One who entangles themselves in the world and hopes to escape the devil is like one who immerses themselves in honey and imagines flies will not swarm them, an utter impossibility. The world is a vast gateway for the devil's whispers, not with a single door, but with countless portals. A wise sage once said, "The devil approaches the son of Adam through sins. If resisted, he comes through the guise of advice, leading to innovation. If refused, he urges excessive scrupulosity, forbidding what is not forbidden. If defied, he sows doubt in ablution and prayer, driving one beyond sound knowledge. If thwarted, he lightens acts of piety so others perceive patience and chastity, inclining their hearts toward them, inflating their ego, and thereby destroying them. At this final stage, his persistence intensifies, knowing that if they surpass it, they shall slip from his grasp into paradise." On the swift transformation of the heart and the division of hearts in change and stability, know, O wayfarer on the path of insight, that the heart, as we have described, is enveloped by the attributes we have mentioned and is the recipient of impressions and states through the gateways we have outlined. It is as if it were a target, ceaselessly struck from every side. When something touches it, it is affected, and as it is struck from one angle, something contrary strikes from another, altering its state. If the devil descends upon it, beckoning toward caprice, an angel descends to turn it away. If a devil draws it to one evil, another pulls it to a different vice. If an angel draws it to a good, another urges a differing virtue. At times it is contested between two angels, at others between two devils, and sometimes between an angel and a devil. Never is it left unattended. To this alludes the verse of God, the exalted, "And we turn their hearts and their sights." Quran 6, 110. Due to the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, witnessing the wondrous craft of God in the heart's marvels and fluctuations, he would swear by it, saying, "No, by the turner of hearts." Often he would pray, "O turner of hearts, make my heart steadfast upon your religion." They asked, "Do you fear, O messenger of God?" He replied, "And what secures me when the heart lies between two fingers of the most merciful, turned as he wills?" In another narration, "If he wills to set it aright, he does so. If he wills to lead it astray, he leads it astray." He, peace and blessings be upon him, offered three similes for the heart. The heart is like a sparrow turning every hour. The heart in its fluctuations is like a pot when it reaches a boil. And the heart is like a feather in a desolate plain, turned by the winds, now on its back, now on its belly. These transformations and the divine marvels in their fluctuations, beyond the reach of mere knowledge, are known only to those who vigilantly observe their states before God. Hearts, in their steadfastness to good or evil or their wavering between the two, are of three kinds. The first is a heart nurtured by piety, refined through discipline, and purified of vile traits. From the treasures of the unseen and the gateways of the divine realm, thoughts of goodness spark within it. The intellect turns to contemplate what arises, discerning the subtleties of virtue and unveiling the secrets of its benefits. By the light of insight its true face is revealed, and it decrees that this good must be acted upon, urging itself to fulfillment. The angel beholds this heart, finding it pure in essence, sanctified by piety, illuminated by the radiance of intellect, and adorned with the lights of divine knowledge. Seeing it worthy to be a dwelling and a landing place, the angel reinforces it with unseen legions, guiding it to further virtues, so that good begets good in an unending chain. Its support in inspiring good and easing its path knows no end. To such a heart alludes the verse, "As for he who gives and is mindful of God and believes in the best, we will ease him toward ease." Quran 92, 5, 7. In such a heart shines the lamp of divine light from the niche of sustainership, so that no hidden polytheism, more subtle than the creeping of a black ant on a dark night, remains concealed. No deception of the devil prevails against this light. Rather, when the devil approaches with ornate words of deceit, the heart turns away. This heart, cleansed of destructive traits, becomes a near abode filled with saving virtues, gratitude, patience, fear, hope, poverty of spirit, asceticism, love, contentment, longing, trust, reflection, self-accounting, and more. This is the heart upon which God, the Exalted, has turned his face, the tranquil heart intended in the verse unquestionably by the remembrance of God, hearts find rest. Quran 13:28. and in the address, O reassured soul, Quran 89:27. The second is the forsaken heart, laden with caprice, defiled by blameworthy traits and impurities, its doors open to devils and sealed against angels. The origin of evil within it begins with a fleeting thought of desire stirring within. It turns to the intellect, seeking its counsel and the right path. But the intellect, accustomed to serving desire, familiar with it, persists in devising stratagems for its sake, aiding it. The soul dominates, lending it support, and the chest expands with caprice as its darkness spreads, for the forces of intellect are restrained from opposing it. The devil's dominion strengthens as desire expands its territory, approaching with embellishment, deception, and false hopes, whispering ornate words of delusion. The power of faith in divine promise and warning weakens. The light of certainty dims in fear of the hereafter, as a dark smoke rises from desire, filling the heart's chambers until its lights are extinguished. The intellect becomes like an eye whose lids are filled with smoke, unable to see. Such is the effect of desire's dominance over the heart, leaving no capacity for pause or discernment. Even if a preacher advises it or speaks the truth, it remains blind to understanding and deaf to hearing. Desire rages within, the devil intervenes, and the limbs move in accordance with caprice, manifesting disobedience from the realm of the unseen into the visible world by God's decree and predestination. To such a heart alludes the verse, "Have you seen he who has taken as his God his own desire? Would you be a guardian over him? Or do you think that most of them hear or reason? They are not but like livestock, nay, they are further astray." Quran 25:43-44. And the word has come true against most of them, so they do not believe. Quran 36:7. And it is the same to them whether you warn them or do not warn them. They will not believe. Quran 36:10. The third heart is one in which thoughts of desire arise, beckoning to evil, yet thoughts of faith follow, urging toward good. The soul, with its cravings, rises to support the thought of evil, strengthening desire and adorning indulgence. The intellect then rises to support the thought of good, opposing desire, denouncing its act as ignorance, likening it to a beast or predator in its reckless pursuit of evil and disregard for consequences. The soul inclines toward the intellect's counsel, but the devil launches an assault on the intellect, bolstering the call of desire, whispering, "What is this cold scrupulosity? Why deny yourself your desire and harm your soul? Do you see anyone of your era opposing their whims or abandoning their aims? Will you leave the delights of this world for them to enjoy while you constrain yourself, remaining deprived, wretched and weary, mocked by the people of your time? Do you wish to surpass so-and-so who indulged as you desire without restraint? Do you not see such and such scholar unconcerned with such matters? If this were truly evil, would they not abstain?" Thus the soul sways toward the devil, turning to him. Then the angel counters the devil, saying, "Is there aught for you but to follow fleeting pleasure and forget the consequence? Will you settle for a trifling delight and forsake the eternal bliss of paradise? Do you find the pain of abstaining from desire heavy, yet not the torment of the fire? Are you deceived by people's heedlessness of themselves, their pursuit of whims, and their alliance with the devil, when the torment of the fire is not lightened by another's sin? Imagine a scorching summer day, with all standing under the sun, while you have a cool house. Would you join them, or seek refuge for yourself? How then do you conform with them, in fear of the sun's heat, yet not in fear of the fire's blaze?" At this the soul heeds the angel's words, wavering between the two forces, pulled between the two camps, until what is most fitting prevails over the heart. If the dominant traits within the heart are devilish, as we have described, the devil prevails, and the heart inclines to its kind among the devil's ranks, turning from God's party and his allies, aiding the devil's party and his foes, its limbs acting by divine decree in a manner that distances it from God. But if the dominant traits are angelic, the heart disregards the devil's seduction, his belittling of the hereafter, and his promotion of fleeting gains, inclining instead to God's party, with obedience manifesting on its limbs by prior divine decree. Thus, the heart of a believer lies between two fingers of the most merciful. between the pull of these two forces predominantly in flux shifting from one camp to another, steadfastness with the angelic party or the devilish party on a permanent basis is exceedingly rare on either side. These acts of obedience and disobedience emerge from the treasuries of the unseen into the visible world through the treasury of the heart, itself a vault of the divine realm. When they manifest, they serve as signs by which the masters of hearts discern prior divine decree. For those created for paradise, the means of obedience are made easy. For those created for the fire, the means of disobedience are facilitated, with evil companions imposed upon them and the devil's decree cast into their heart. Through manifold deceptions, he misleads the foolish, saying, God is merciful, so do not worry, or all people disregard fear of God, so do not oppose them, or life is long, so delay repentance until tomorrow. He promises and deludes them, but the devil promises naught but deception, luring them with repentance and forgiveness, destroying them by God's permission through such ploys and their like. He widens their heart to accept delusion and narrows it against truth, all by God's decree and predestination. Whomever God wills to guide, he expands their breast for Islam, and whomever he wills to lead astray, he makes their breast tight and constricted, as if they were ascending into the sky. Quran 6, 125. If God should aid you, no one can overcome you, but if he should forsake you, who is there that can aid you after him? Quran 3, 160. He is the guide and the misguider, doing as he wills and decreeing as he desires. None can repel his judgment nor question his decree. He created paradise and its people, employing them in obedience, and created the fire and its people, employing them in disobedience, making known to creation the signs of the people of paradise and the fire. He declared, indeed the righteous will be in pleasure, and indeed the wicked will be in hellfire. Quran 82:13, 14. Then, as narrated from his prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, God said, these are for paradise, and I care not, these are for the fire, and I care not. Exalted is God, the true sovereign. He is not questioned about what he does, while they are questioned. Quran 21:23. Let us suffice with this modest portion of the marvels of the heart, for exhaustive discourse on it does not befit the science of practical dealings. We have mentioned only what is necessary for understanding the depths of the sciences of interaction and their secrets, so that those who are not content with mere appearances, nor satisfied with the husk over the kernel, but yearn for the subtleties of the true causes may benefit. What we have presented suffices and satisfies, God willing. God is the grantor of success. This concludes the book of the marvels of the heart, and to God belongs all praise and favour. Following it is the book of disciplining the soul and refining character. Praise be to God alone, and may God's blessings be upon every chosen servant.